Let's go. I don't know, I have to say, when I made that intro, it sounded really cool, and now it's just too damn long. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Glad to have you back.
Doing excellent. Thank you very much for inviting me back once again. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. I was hoping, or I'm still hoping, that we have a couple of others that said they couldn't be here, and a couple of others that said they might be here. And usually might means I'm not going to be there, but if they show up, great, we'll let them in. If they're one that's online, then please just ping me over on Discord, and I'll send you the link if I haven't already sent it to you so you can get in. All right, so I every week, and I want to cover this twice this week because it's been such a special week for me. I don't know how many of you are into YouTube, and I know that, Mike, you are obviously into YouTube because your channel is awesome. We always enjoy your systems, and are jealous a bit about your all your 12,000 XPs and all of your systems. But this morning at about 10 minutes till 8 o'clock, I hit 25,000 subscribers, and I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to everyone. I sincerely am in awe at your support and all of you coming to watch my videos and participate in our live streams, and for people like Mike who come by and join it and have fun with us. So I just wanted to say thank you. I tried to prepare a really cool screen that had fireworks and stuff, and you can see part of it in the background, but I haven't been able to figure out how to get the darn thing to go off. It doesn't seem to want to be foreground, it wants to be background. So I won't set off the old-fashioned fireworks I used to set off in my old OBS screen, but know that they're there, and thank you very much for that. And thank you for everything. We have a wonderful show planned this week. We're going to do some stuff about disasters again. We'll cover everything from hurricanes to storms to snow to ice to floods to wildfires to extreme heat to long utility outages and anything else that we can think of. And then we will probably regress into a little bit miner talk, because I know both of us have been playing with our bit miners lately, and I know that I have gotten a bunch of new solar panels recently upgraded, and I have been burning a lot of bit miner power. And so I'll show you some of the stats there, and we'll talk about yours also. I know you've got totally different use cases for yours than I have for mine, and I thought that was really fascinating. I think you put out a video about that last week. Am I right about that?
I did, and just to kind of go back to where we were a few minutes ago, congratulations on the 25,000 subscribers.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's a very, very big feat. You'll be at the 100K before you know it.
That is, I've got my eye set on that 100K, and then of course my challenge to Will Prowse was to get to 1 million and match him. I started the day that he hit 1 million is the day I started my journey on a challenge from him. So if he's watching or if he sees this, Will, I'm hot on your tail. I'm only 975,000 behind, but I'll get there. He's already gained more than 25,000, but we won't say that out loud. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. All right. So let's talk. Let's talk a little bit. Where do you want to start? You want to start with disaster, since that's what we promised with all the different on all the different thumbnails. Do we want to start with? And we are live streaming with YouTube and Facebook again this week, and there is a vertical and a horizontal on the YouTube. So if you prefer vertical, there is a vertical out there. If you prefer horizontal, there is a horizontal out there. And that just means that if you've got your cell phone and you can turn it sideways, whichever way you want to watch it. And if you're on Facebook, I believe it does the horizontal. It doesn't give me the option to run two different ones over there, or I would. But, and I had my first video go off this week over on Facebook. I think it just reached about 25, 30,000 views just a little while ago. I was kind of like stunned because I woke up and it's just like exploding. And so that was kind of my first one over there. It's been kind of the slog, as you know how it goes. So I've been very pleased with that. So if you're here from Facebook, thank you for your participation there too. You're not part of the big celebration of the 25K on YouTube, but Facebook is climbing fast and moving quickly. So thank you there. All right, where did you want to start? Did you have an idea? What's on the top of your mind tonight?
I would say let's give what was promised first, and then if we have time, we can get onto some other topics.
All right, and we do have some comments out there. I forgot to switch my screen over to it. Let's just see. There we go. Paul. Hey, Paul. Facebook is working, and hi, glad to see you. And this is the same Paul here. So he's on both YouTube and Facebook. My guess is he started there and then switched over here. Thank you, Paul, for checking that. And Paul, if you write me on the side, I got some extra used panels that I am not going to be able to sell, but I know that you'll put them to good use. So please write me, and I will give them to you just for the sake of helping you grow your channel. All right. And let's get started then on the I'm looking for the word. I want to keep calling it hurricane, and it's disaster, because for me, it's a hurricane. For everyone else, there are all these other things that happen. When I moved here from Texas, it was always tornadoes. You live in an area where you have snow and probably ice also. We did have that in Dallas some also. I know that South Texas has had some issues, and some of Florida has had some issues recently with floods. California and that area over there has had some wildfires, and actually in Canada at this point are having problems with wildfires. Obviously, extreme heat or a lot of heat produces a lot of strain on the grid, and the simple reason for that is that people turn on their ACs and run them crazy, unless of course you have some cool solar fan that's pointed at you while you're talking. We won't say any names, but we'll just say the person smiling now is probably guilty. And then we have, sorry, I couldn't help myself. We have long utility outages, and I will tell you, it's kind of funny, and I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. If you will believe, as soon as I got my backfeed piece of my system working, I have had 4 power outages in the last 2 weeks. I have no idea. The other night, I'm sitting there, and the lights go out, and I'm like, what's going on? And I go outside, and there's all these electric trucks across the street, and they're actually, no, the power wasn't out. There's all these electric companies trucks across the street, and they're like working on, I guess a transformer over there had blown up or something, but the whole side of that street was out. And sorry, I got distracted. My phone rang. I wasn't expecting it to be on. I just silenced it. The whole side of the street is out, and I'm sitting thinking, I wish it was me, so I could turn on my, my backup system again, get another use out of it twice in the same month. About 20 minutes later, they went and shut the whole high voltage off for the whole neighborhood. Everything went dark, and it was out for 3 hours. And
Mm.
I kept expecting a knock on the door of, hey, excuse me, sir, you're not backfeeding the grid or anything, are you? And I guess they obviously found out I wasn't. But it's been very, very cool all this time, and I haven't really had much of a use for it other than waiting for the hurricane to hit. But all these power outages all of a sudden have really been hitting hard around here. A lot of the infrastructure is getting old, and it's kind of getting where a lot of the transformers, the big ones that hang on the pole, the voltage down step transformers are just popping or burning out, or probably undersized and burning out with the way electricity usage has gone up over the years. So, and I don't remember where I was going with the story, other than I was telling the story.
Actually, have something I can add to this. So um, I don't remember the exact date, but it's been within the last 30 to 60 days. Um, one of the top providers of electricity to the states, and I think it handles maybe 10, 12 different states, but it wasn't Commonwealth Edison. It wasn't one of those, but it was a different one. And in any event, they were very close to losing stability. And they had ordered some of the data centers to actually power down because they were that close to peak that they were concerned about the effect of it and taking down part of the US grid. So when we had that heat dome, whenever that was 3 weeks ago, whatever that,
Hmm.
that actually happened, and they were looking at um, potentially mass outages. So as we continue to have more electric cars, which I think electric cars are great, as we have more people mining cryptocurrency, which many of us do, and also you're covering your face. Yes, you too. Uh, but then also you have these data centers, and the grid just cannot keep up with the capacity. If you look at a chart of usage over the last 20 years or so, it was trending down up until these data centers started to really become in the picture. So with that, the infrastructure really can't keep up. And as you stated, there is the issue that it is aging and it's hard to get
Aging.
parts, and parts are expensive. And now a lot of this is shipped directly from overseas. It's not made by US companies anymore.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest problems with it. I mean, there's a couple of big problems, but obviously aging is one of the biggest known issues that's coming along. I know there was a few years back when we had a couple of hurricanes, and I think it was that one that took out New Orleans, South Texas, and all that. And they really got onto these electric companies about keeping lines clean and keeping the trees off of them and stuff like that. And most of us probably remember, around that time frame where they just came through and just butchered all the trees. I mean, they were, instead of doing their normal 2 or 3 year cut, they were doing 5 and 10 year cuts where the trees can't grow back for 5 to 10 years, and they just were just killing everything. Um, but that, I know at that point was huge. And then of course with the influx of electric cars, which I'm with you. I think all electric cars have a use. Now, do I want them to mandate it so that when a hurricane hits, I have to wait in line at an electric outlet to get the hell out of town? No, I don't want them to mandate it. Um, the market will carry it on its own. Um, but so that, I think that's probably one of the things. Now, I recently heard a lot of the current legislation that just passed was most states are getting online with it now too, is that they've changed a lot of the regulations to where they've mandated that a AI facility cannot put any undue strain on the local grid. In other words, they have to produce their own
Mhm.
power and have to be a net positive to the environment and all of that. So that I think will help. Obviously, it's got to be a very fine balance here between fighting the AI war, which if anyone in any industry at this point is not familiar with what's going on in the AI industry, it's just bonkers crazy. I mean, some of this stuff is just absolutely just crazy. We have to be part of it because it's going to be a huge part of our future. And then, but at the same time, fuel, gas prices, electrical cost, reliability, those type of things are going to become a huge issue. I'm assuming that what will end up happening is a lot of these will be paired up with other types of facilities that do have that will cause net benefits to them. So for example, imagine you put the airport, the AI facility, and the hospital on the same plot of land or near the same plot of land. All three of them are absolute no downtime facilities. Or you would not want downtime facilities, or you would want self-generation for them all so that they don't have downtime. One, obviously the AI could go down during that, but the other ones you wouldn't want them. So I can see that there, I think what's gonna, I personally, I have no evidence of this, no studies, no documentation. It's coming right off the top of my head tonight. Is I think it would be cool to take those facilities that have to be there 24/7 and build them as net positives. Maybe even put the power generations there, the hospitals are there, this is there, that's there, and then they just become a net positive for the entire environment around there. All the jobs come with it and everything. So that's one way to, I think, to deal with it. But everything is cool until it's in your backyard, I guess is what comes down to, you know.
And that's the crux of it. Is if you look at some of Elon Musk's you know, data centers, he'll have natural gas turbines right there at the location. What they found out is that the folks that live really close to it, they can notice that the air quality isn't what it was. So yeah, there's unfortunately always the negative to it. And what there is new nuclear power plants that are being created. Some of these are modular. I just saw one in which you could essentially, they can ship a small plant, set it up, and then you can run your data center, and maybe that might line up with what you're thinking, these microgrids, to where you have few facilities real close, it's powered, and 100% uptime, which would be kind of neat.
And you don't, yeah, and that's exactly what I'm thinking, but I'm not necessarily thinking, and I was kind of surprised to hear you say that came from one of the gas power plants, because they're really the very, very clean power plant is one of the natural gas ones. I'm thinking more of, you put the solar fields there. I mean, talking about all of that infrastructure, you put it all together in one place, and then you don't have to worry about transmission lines. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You could even put, a lot of the one thing that's become really big, and I think I released an article out on your forum about this. I'll actually post the link to that while I'm at it. But the was let me find it. It keeps moving on me. There it is. So the article that I posted here talked about how there's these new centers now that are opening up. They're basically battery storage facilities, and the companies pay you, instead of you going to the electric company and the electric company taking your electrical power and giving you cents on the dollar for it. They pay you for that, and probably less than the going rate, but they pay you for it, and they store it in batteries. And then when bad weather comes along, they have the option of pulling from their battery bank or your battery bank and providing the grid that almost like micro feeds from all around the thing. Now, the downside to it is that if you have small enough, if you're not, you can't just opt out of every single thing you want. You can opt out occasionally, but from what I was reading, if you opt out more than once or twice out of the key disasters and stuff, then you get axed out of the program.
Right.
But I could see that being a viable solution in the future at some point, to where if everybody had batteries, we could easily run the grid.
Oh, absolutely. And Riding with Paul has a really good comment about solar covered parking. I think that's a great way to go, especially when you look at most buildings have large parking lots. Some of them are already covered, but if you can use that to offset part of their requirements, that would definitely help relieve, strain on the grid for sure.
Yeah, and he's talking about he was down there at the VA, and it's kind of funny because the Paul, I went down to that same VA. I'm assuming you mean the one in Vieira, and they've got all those cool new solar parking lot almost. It's actually a really cool concept. I thought the same thing when I saw it, but unfortunately I was on a mission when I got there to go in and get some security stuff done. So I went in and got that done, and then forgot about the taking pictures and stuff of it. So it was pretty cool. Um, so there's a lot of different. I guess the point we're making here is that there's a lot of different reasons to lose power, short term and long term. This was one of one of the things I released a video earlier this week that talked about, you know, how big of a battery bank do you really need and everything. And I got a lot of flack about, well, if you can run a generator, then just buy 7 days worth of generator gas, or 21 days worth of gas, or 45 days worth of gas, and or if you have a Generac, then you just use natural gas and you don't worry about it. Or if you have, and my argument to that is all of that's wonderful, with the exception of the fact that you still have bought it. And let's talk about a Generac for a second. You buy a Generac, and yes, when the power goes out, it kicks on. But you've also got a $20,000 asset sitting there doing nothing 99% of the time. It's cool when it works and when you need it. But it doesn't save you from the cost of anything, because you've got the $20,000 asset sitting there. And then when you do need it, whether you're running off of propane underground or whether you're running off of natural gas, you still have a fuel cost that goes associated with it. You're not getting away from that. And if you're in an environment like in California where you have earthquakes and stuff like that, then you've also got to worry about, will you actually have the gas lines and that type of stuff all the time also. So, well, hello, Donald. Good evening from Central Florida. Late as usual. Yeah, you're late. We were talking about you earlier, but we didn't want to say anything. But now that you said it, we noticed that you weren't here. No, I'm kidding. Welcome back, Donald. Thanks for coming. You did miss my 25,000 subscriber celebration, though. But I'll have another one later because it's a big milestone. So I'm going to do it twice just for the fun of it. What do you think about that heat lately, though? Boy, it's been a hot one lately. So let me ask you a couple questions, and I'm going to openly tell you I've got an agenda here. So if I go through this agenda and it sounds like some of these might have been too well thought out, it's because they were too well thought out. Usually when I think about having a live stream, I take the whole week and I just write notes, and then I go back to Chat GPT and say, okay, look, here's all my notes. Tell me what the ones of these are good ones and which ones are bad ones. So in this one, they came up with. I had listed a couple of things that worried me about power outages in different locations in different places. And we talked about earlier having hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and ice storms and floods and wildfires. And there's a big variety of things to be worried about. But my question is you personally, what keeps you up at night? What makes you worry about your solar system? I know last year you had a run-in with some snow and some, brownout conditions because you didn't have enough power. Obviously, you've done to fix that. So now what's on your agenda now, other than maybe not having enough power to run your Bitminer all the time?
Good question. So I have some additional panels that I need to set up. It'll help bridge me through the winter for sure. The way that things are sitting right now, I have plenty of power for today, and I have enough power that I can mine Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic at nighttime. I would prefer to mine 24 hours a day. and also when the winter comes, not only to have enough power to run the house and the shop, but still have enough left over that I could still mine and use that as heat and not have to use the grid that much. So I have another miner that's actually on the way, so I'll be up to 4 now. And I still have another one that I need to purchase, and once I'm at 5, I promise I'll stop. But I have another 48 panels that I need to set up. So 24 of them are 290 watt, and then another 24 are 380s. So once all that's set up, it's not going to be at the perfect angle because I don't have enough room to. Once it's all going, it will give me enough power to do essentially what I want to do with it. The other thing that I'm working on is taking safety to the next level on my setup. So I'll be tearing everything down for both the house system and the shop system and working on that over the next 6 to 9 months. So everything behind me will be in conduit, including the bus bars and all of my fuses. And I want to try to get things as close to code as you possibly can, try to essentially be above code in every aspect. So that's something that I'm working on. And I think it will improve the channel as well, because as I'm doing videos and I have all of the equipment behind me, it will make it more professional looking, which will add to the credibility of the channel. So those are a few of the things that I'm working on that I want to do. Now, back to your point, what is my concern? So my concern is not having enough power in the wintertime where you have less sunlight and more cloudy days. The other
And more
thing
heat.
would be,
And the need to
I'm sorry,
generate
say
more
again?
heat constantly.
Absolutely. Have to
Yeah.
be able to generate all of that heat. So those are the big things in ensuring that my redundancy is in place. So I do have that backup generator, but having it connected would be obviously a good thing. I have a charge inverter that's powered on, but isn't connected to the generator. So that's something that I need to set up for sure. What about yourself?
So, um, obviously, Paul here talks about your heat in winter places would be good. So then that's what you're using yours for. You're actually
Correct.
dual usages for heat generation. Okay, so then,
Correct.
so for me, the biggest fear that I have is what got me into this whole thing is, the long term viability of it when it goes out. Because usually if I lose power because of a hurricane, the small outages here and there, anybody can live through those. I mean, you can put a generator in the backyard and turn it on for a couple of days and make it without too much trouble. Anyone who's watched any of my videos has recently seen, since I moved everything around, all the gas cans that I have when the hurricane's coming as my backup to my backup plan. So for me, the biggest fear is having enough of a system that's big enough to truly go off grid, because a lot of people don't realize there's a difference between going off grid and going no grid. And they don't understand that there's a lot of these inverters that are out, the ones I have, the ones you have, they all have the ability to use the grid to charge, the ability to fall back to the grid when we don't have enough power. With the grid tied solar edge that I have, it has the ability to feed the power back to the grid, to use the power from the grid when you use it. All of these things that we use solar for, but when you go off grid, all of those safety nets are gone. And that's the thing that really worries me at this point. So as many different solar systems and inverters as I have, we were talking about this actually before the show started tonight. I have a couple of 6,000 XPs. I've got one in my RV. I've got one in the solar shed that I use for showing everyone online here. I've also got a 10,000 watt LZ power, which is an SRE and SRNE knockoff that I use to run the house with. But none of them are big enough for me to say I could go off grid permanently. And that's what happens when you get into a real hurricane scenario. I mean, look at those people in South Carolina and down in actually down where around where you are. How many months did some of those people probably still don't have um, places to go and places to live and backup power and that kind of stuff. And so that's what keeps me up at night. It isn't the can I make it last for a day? Can my, my battery bank, carry me through if there's solar out there? What happens in disasters in my mind is everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I think of it this way. If I was to have a real disaster, and that means that if I get hit by a hurricane, and let's just say, for example, a hurricane comes, I'm prepared, I take all my solar panels out, pack them all up, I shove them in my solar shed. What happens if it takes my shed and rips it down, carries it away? What happens if it rips the roof off of my house? Those are the type of things. Now I have to really be off grid, and I have to do it long term, because if the storm is that bad, all of my neighbors are going to be around. All of them are going, everyone's going to be in bad shape. This isn't going to be like you can, borrow a 5-gallon tank of gas and get through the night. Everyone's going to be in bad shape. So that's what keeps me up at night. That fear that my system isn't good enough to actually go, let's call it prime time. And you learned this winter that as big as your system is, as cool as it is, as much power as you have, when it gets freaking cold outside, it takes a lot of juice to keep things running. It takes a lot of juice to keep things running.
Let's expand on that if we can. So you had mentioned that there's a difference between backup and completely off grid. There's a point that I want to make on it, because it's a very vast difference between the two. So you might see someone that has a FlexBoss 21, a Grid Boss, and 2 batteries, and they have 30 kilowatts of batteries, or let's just say they have 4 batteries. It's good for overnight. It may get you through the next day. If there's no sun, you're basically out of power if that is your full backup. And I know a lot of people look at it and see these massive batteries and say, I'm good, I have 2 batteries, I have 4 batteries. But the truth is that I found out, depending on your usage, depending on the size of your house, you might need 200-300 kilowatts of batteries to be able to go that 4 or 5 days that are shaded, or a week that's shaded. And you need a place to put them. You're going to need at least 1 inverter, usually 2, because a lot of these inverters, if you look at the FlexBoss 21, that puts out 50 amps continuous with sun. I think it's 63. The same with the 12,000 XPs, the version 2, they'll put out 50 amps and 63 with the sun shining. But when you think about it, you start adding on a well pump, you turn on your HVAC, you turn on all the lights and all the loads. I know in my house, when I turned everything on at once, I pulled 130 amps. So if you have a single inverter that's putting out 50 and your load is 125, 130 with everything put on, you can't go off grid. You can do critical loads. You can do some things on, some things off, and you say, okay, well, we have the furnace is on. Let's not turn on the electric dryer. We got to turn this off, then turn on the electric. You're not putting everything on at once.
Right.
So there is a very vast difference between the two. And in some situations, you might not be able to fully hit off grid, because it could require 30 kilowatts of panels, 20 kilowatts of panels, and you need a place to put them. You need a place to put all the batteries and everything else. And I think what you do is correct for 99% of the people. Do a critical loads panel. Okay, so if the power goes out and it's out for a week, what do I need? Okay, I need the fridge because I have medical supplies and I have all this food in there that I need to keep good. I'm going to have to power that window AC unit that I put in for an emergency, or it's in a box and I'm going to use it in that emergency and kind of put it in if it's going to be out for a week. The dehumidifier. Where else that you're going to need the smaller appliances, charging phones and using a microwave and things like that. I almost think that's best for a lot of people, because building out the full system, it gets pretty complicated pretty fast.
It does, and then there's and that aspect of it, the critical loads panel is an aspect of it, and this is something that I learned when I got my start in solar. It was in the mobile RV type industry, and I used to hear all the time from people, well, if I'm out in, boondocking somewhere, all I need is, put whatever you want in that block, all I need is. But there comes a point where all I need is no longer what I need. And in a real emergency situation, you can say, and I had this online discussion with people. I said, I don't know which live stream it was, last week, the week before. It wasn't last week, because last week I missed everything. We'll get into that later while I wasn't here. But I had said somewhere in the last couple of weeks in one of our disaster things that the hot water heater is a luxury item. And you would not even believe how many people told me hot water heater is a luxury item. And I just I keep scratching my head and saying, my God, before 1930, whatever it was, when they created a hot water heater, how the hell did we all stay alive? I mean, it's amazing how spoiled we've gotten over the years. Now, is it healthier? Is it safe to be able to take a hot shower and, to blah, blah, blah? Yes, but you won't die. This, luxury means something you would like to have, makes life better, but you don't have to stay alive. You don't have to have a hot meal. Is it nice? Yes, but you can survive without a hot meal for quite a long time. So that was one of the things but I learned in the RV world that people say, this is all I need. And what ends up happening is that gets really freaking old fast. And It makes it where it's, you're not going to die, but you might not come out of it the same person you went in. And that I can understand, especially if I was, some of these people who got stuck in these hurricanes and the ones that have knocked people out for months and months and months and months. You get stuck in something like that, and you're living on an essentials panel for months with no hot water heater, with no ability to do this or that. And so my suggestion to them always was, that's great. I want you to go camping next week, and the whole time you use nothing but your essentials, and then you come back and tell me that's really how you can do it. Yeah, you can plug in, but you're not allowed to turn anything on that you wouldn't turn on if you were out boondocking. And they're like, well, after about 48 hours, I just decided I really did want my toaster oven in the morning, and I really did need my coffee pot to stay on for an extra 30 minutes after I had my first cup, because that second cup cold sucked. And then they learn what those not necessarily essentials are, but that are sanity keepers.
Very true. And if I can add to that, when you do that scenario, bring your wife and kids.
Absolutely. There's a difference
you'll
between...
find out what your essentials are.
And also, the other thing that I used to tell them is, there's a difference between, I'm going out for a weekend warrior to go out hiking and camping and fishing all weekend, and I'm going there because I have to, because I'm going to live there. I'm going to eat dinner there. I'm going to survive there. There's a big difference. And also from working. A lot of people would say, well, I'm going to build this so I can go out and, I work from home. I'm going to go, do my tech job out in the middle of the mountains. And I'm like, great, that's fine. But you can't go out for a weekend camping and hiking and have the same power usage as you have if you're at home with your computer plugged in, your internet on, and all of that kind of stuff. It's two different worlds. So disasters like this, at first you can live without some of that stuff, but that's my biggest fear, is that what is that limit? Where does it come, and what can you do? Can you swap in some of those things? And that was specifically what a lot of the tests I've been running is how much of that stuff can I swap in? Can I run the hot water heater? How often can I run it? I am lucky enough that I have a well. I don't use it because I also have city water. But I also once a month turn it on and make sure that the solar system runs the well, pumps the well, does whatever it's supposed to do to make sure it's functioning and everything. So a lot of people don't realize that, yeah, you might have water for the first week. You might not have water after a week because a lot of those water towers are going to be empty. They're going to be gone.
Right.
So no matter where you live, there's ups and downs. Okay. We do have a couple of questions here I wanted to answer. NSB showed up. Even NSB, I'm going to tease you a little bit, but only because I teased Donald. He showed up late. Now you showed up later than him. 2 latezies this week. Donald said, so would you make more money mining or selling power back to the electric company? Absolutely depends on where you live. Where I live, I have pumped hundreds of kilowatts back to the power company, and at the end of the year got a check for 80, 90 bucks. I do $50 or $60 every month mining. I don't know about you at this point. I know you're not running it as much as you want at this point, Mike, but what do you anticipate? I know your video said it was what, 30 a month that you were getting off that one? Running it
30
part-time?
off of the 2 and 35 off of the other one, so 65. Once I have the other panels set up and I have the additional miner added on, I should be several hundred a month.
Let me see if I can share real quick. Thought it'd be interesting. Share a screen. If I break my video for a second, I'll be back. Hopefully I won't. Let's see if we can do this. Well, hey, look, there's the fireworks. I found them.
There you
That's
go.
not what I was anticipating. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that worked, kind of. I got the fireworks in the background. Anyway, so this is, we were talking about money that you can make off of bit mining. So bit mining, this isn't the one I wanted to show you. Will this work if I switch screen? Oh, it will. Nice. Let me see if I can find. I'm going to switch back to just us, and then I'm going to go look for that page real quick where my project is. It tells me how much I bit mined, because it kind of gives us some real. Oh, that did it. Of course, as soon as I touch it, then it works just fine. Okay, so here is where I've been mining lately. And I don't know if you're familiar with Zpool, Mike, but Zpool basically, you mine a whole bunch of different ones, and they basically pick the one that's worth the most at the time, and you cycle back through them, and then it pays out in Bitcoin. So you don't get all of those other coins, you just get the Bitcoin payout. But you can see here, this pays out every Bitcoin at about 75,000.00075, which is about $50. It does about $50 increment payouts. And so mine has been running part-time also, but I've been doing it a little bit different than you're doing it. Mine runs at about 2,200 watts during the day at slow mode, and then about 4,000 watts at fast mode. Now, depending on how much power I have, depends on which one I have to run it at. And this wasn't true until I just recently got the new solar panels. But now I'm accumulating enough power during the day that even today when there was no sun, I went from 35 to 80 which that's 80% of 61 kilowatts is 80%. So we're looking at probably I made about 45 kilowatts today. Actually, I can actually look at that too.
Good amount of
today?
solar. If I can answer one question that popped up a little bit
53.
earlier,
Yeah, go ahead.
go with the larger panels, less panels, but larger ones. It will save you the most in the long run because the mounts for the solar panels usually cost quite a bit more than the solar panels themselves.
Yeah, the mounts, the microinverters, the optimizers, and all of them are adds dramatically to the cost. So no, I did 53 kilowatt hours today. And that's outside of the house. This is solar shed, fun power, not house power. But the house is probably sitting at another 45 or so. I've been outpacing the actual panels on the house quite considerably every day. So yesterday I ran it at full steam all night long, and then I had to run it again. Then I tuned it down a little bit this morning. So it ran last night from, I don't know, 8:15 all the way till this morning at 10:05, and then I toned it down to slow so that when I turned it on tonight it would be slow, and then I just let it run until 11 o'clock this morning. So I've been running about 20 hours a day, 16 to 20 hours a day. And today was a slow day. Yesterday and today were both slow days, so I only did about 50, so I got 52 today and 55 yesterday, and a really bad day the day before. You can see there was almost no sun there, but this is more 63 and 70. This has been more the norm and it's almost 24 hours if I ran it at the slow speed. But the problem is I don't like that temperature during the middle of the afternoon. This is kind of where I'm running into problems here, is it's almost 100 degrees out there. And I shut off right around here, around 10 or 11 o'clock, and then I don't turn back on until somewhere around here, let that temperature fall off. So for me, it's all about temperature at this point, because if I went with the slow mode, I could pretty much keep it on for about 74 kilowatt hours a day. I could keep it on 24/7. And I'm not getting enough to do that, but I'm getting damn close. It is to the point now where I look at 80 and I'm like, okay, this is going to have to come on tonight early, because otherwise it won't be discharged enough in the morning to store all the power that comes in.
True. Rosa had a great question. If I can answer this, she had asked, what is a good miner to use, and something that will create maybe $20, $30 a month. Rosa, if you could answer us this, how many kilowatt hours of extra do you have each day? And that's really needed to help determine which miner is best for you. There's a few of them that both of us have worked with, and it really depends on how much power that you have, and also, can it be loud, or do you want something that's going to be silent inside your house? So if you could put that in the chat, and that will help us out tremendously.
I'm going to go back through a few of these. I didn't see all these out here, so let me just make sure. I think you answered this one already for NSB. Do you think 4 high voltage panels of sun most of the time would perform better than 10 400 watt, outperform 10? There are optimizers on the 10. Would there be optimizers on the 4 high wattage panels? I mean, it's going to depend on if the 4 high wattage panels are going to have shade. It's still going to, you're not really going to build, you're going to optimize a less. In that case, it might be better if you have optimizers on all and you have shade running across them. It might be better to have the smaller panels. It's going to cost more, but you're going to get more power out of it, because it's going to cut off those panels that are bad or optimize those panels that are bad. But if you only have one big one, it can't do much with it.
Yeah, the flip side to that also is, if the panels are bifacial and they're split panels, then you can shade part of the panel and the other half is still working. And also any reflection that's behind it is going to add to it so it doesn't kill the output. So if it's a split panel and it is also um, going to be bifacial, that's really going to help. But you figure if you do the correct mounts, the mounts are going to cost 3 times what the panel costs typically. So if
I
you're
was looking at
talking,
I was looking at optimizers and microinverters the other day. What the hell happened? The cost of them went like they're double what they used to cost.
yeah, yeah.
Did something happen in the electronic market to cause that? Because everything else has come down. I mean, panels you can get for 80, 90, $100 new now if you're ordering a pallet and waiting for a good deal. 150, you can get them all day long. But optimizers and microinverters all of a sudden have just gone right through the roof. I thought they used to be $30.
Sorry, Roseanne. I saw Rosa and I went with that because I know quite a few Roses. So my apologies, Roseanne or Rosen. 24 kilowatts of extra in the batteries by 8 p.m.
Oh,
So
hold on.
you have
Let me.
24.
Do you want to go with hers real quick, and then I'll come back to him? I'll come back to the rest of these. Okay, go ahead.
So you have 24,000 watts. For that, let me think here.
24 extra by 8 to 8, 8 p.m., 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So you got 10 hours.
I would go with, and
2.4
does it,
kilowatts. You need 2,400 watt burn. I know real well because that's exactly my burn.
right. I would say in your situation, and you're saying define loud. So loud is loud, like a jet loud is how loud that the miners are for the commercial ones. I would recommend for you a Altair from Altair Technologies, and I can get you a link, but go with the Canon Avalon Q. It will draw 800 watts in eco mode. You can leave it running 24 hours a day. You can then put it in standard mode, which is 1300 watts. So 800 watts eco, 1300 watts. And then I think you can put it on its high mode, which is around 1600 watts. But I think you'd be able to adjust it on the app to whichever setting that you want. And that's one of the ones that I use. Razan. Perfect. I would go with that one. You can run it on 120, you can run it on 240, and you're looking at around 50 decibels. And loud for
That was actually relatively quiet. Because I run the
on Eco, it's 40s.
I run the S19 bit ant miner. Now it is a commercial Bitcoin miner. It is extremely loud, probably 75, 80 decibels. I just replaced a couple of the fans in it, which actually helped. It does have the four high-speed 6,000 RPM fans in there, and then it also has three 3,000 RPM little fans in it. And so, I mean, when it cranks up, it is extremely loud. Now, when I put the fans in, it helps a lot. Now, mine's out in the solar shed, so I don't care too much. The noise doesn't bother me because it's outside. But it does, in the slow mode, it runs at about 2,300 watts. And then in high mode, it runs at about 35 to 4,000, depending on the temperature outside. In the winter, it gets a whole lot better. In the summer, it can crank up to a little over 4,000 when it's 89, when it's 90, 95 degrees out there. So it does slow down a bit or pull a little bit more power when it's at high speed. But I think for what she's looking for, you're absolutely right. One of those quieter ones. And it depends too. If she's also looking to get it burned down, if she's looking to burn down that amount of power in 10 hours, then you're going to have to burn down at 2,400 watts. There's no other way to do it. You're going to burn 2.4 kilowatts hour. You're going to have to burn 2.4 kilowatt hours an hour to get the 24 kilowatts gone in 10 hours. So it's going to be quite a burn. And that one will do it, but it is noisy, and it requires 240 dual plugs. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to make special accommodations. Where yours is 800 watts, you can plug it into a 110. It's nice and quiet, and you get pretty good. I don't know what kind of bit rate you're getting out of that. I know I get in slow mode, I get about 80 terahash, and then in fast mode, I get about 110 terahash. And I think
this
yours
will
is
do, I believe, 90 on high, and 90 pulls 600 watts.
Oh, that's not bad.
Or 1600 watts, 1600 watts. So on high, it's 90 terahash at 1600 watts, which would be yours on low drawing about 22 to 2400 watts. So it's
and
it's
late at night when it's
more
cool
efficient.
out in the winter, it'll get down just under 2000, but not during this time of year. It never gets that low. It gets down to about 21 at the in the middle of the night. All right. If you got more questions, just post them down below. We'll get to them all. Donald said, the fear of long-term outage is why I kept the RV. Less power to survive. It worked for Hurricane Milton. Yeah, I mean, they're great. I mean, I lived on my 6000 XP with 30 kilowatt hours of battery power, and I would go park at a beach or in a casino for a week or two at a time and I would have to limit what I was doing. In other words, there were times where I didn't turn on the hot water heater all the time, which is, I think, where my fear comes from, because I realize there's a difference in doing things like that. But yeah, and I also got rid of all the air conditioners off the roof. I put mini splits in. That's one of the best things for hurricane relief. It's just pick a protected room. NSB, I found that having large panels have helped me get power sooner and better power through the day. I'm very much enjoying the large panels of my 12-volt panels. Over my 12-volt panels. Yeah, over 12-volt panels, I can imagine. Because I think you've got those little 100, you got a couple of the little 100 panels and then the new 250 used ones that you got from me. Is that right, Paul? All right, then we got Roseanne. I think we already answered that, right?
So it's rosin. If you look in rosin's a male. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, rosin. Also, what kind of draw are we looking at for what kind of miner? Yeah. And so there's a bunch of different ones here. I mean, he's got the lower draw one that's quieter. I've got the higher draw one. Both of them have a high and a low mode. So you're looking at, and then you can get the little miniature ones. I've got one little bitty, solo lotto miner that, you can get a couple of those that run at 10. They got some that run at 1 terahash and some that run at 10 and some that run at 20. And you could even do 3 or 4 of those and just plug them into outlets all over your home too. Those have gotten really inexpensive, and they're really nice now. And some of the medium-sized ones can actually pull. We're a little bit bigger bit miners, but what you're looking at looks like you need something that burns quite a bit. Thought I had no idea how that scales. Oh, I thought I have no idea how that scales. No, it scales for sure. It all comes down to inverters and getting out of 12 volts, because it scales very painfully, that kind of power going into 12-volt system. There's a thanks for Mike.
Rosin had asked for the link. If it's okay, I'll post it, if it's all right with you.
And if you can't, post it in the private chat with me, and then I'll post it that way. That way, sure, it shows up. If it doesn't post for you, it should post for you though. I can't tell much of a difference with the optimizers versus when they're off. And it may just be that you really don't have as much shade problem as you think. I mean, the fact is if you have a full panel that's going out from, unless they're in series, you're not going to see as much of an effect on that And I don't remember enough about your system to know. You had multiple panels in series. You should be seeing some effect as long as you've got shade. Now, if you don't have any shade issues, then optimizers aren't going to do anything. I mean, they're really there to optimize around the shading effects. Roseanne. Yeah, 100 decibels is very loud. I don't even think mine's that loud. Even when I had a fan go out a few weekends ago, bearings were winding, and I don't think it was 100. Actually, at night it would be burning for free, so during the day it would be taking power from solar. Well, if it's burning for free, then you probably want one of the bigger ones then. And then tone it down during the day, as long as the noise don't bother you. I got mine. Now I'll warn you, I got mine used off of Amazon, and I got a pretty decent deal of it. It only cost me a few $100s, but I also have to be prepared to do some maintenance on it because these farms aren't selling them because they're pristine and working perfectly. I've had to clean it, to completely take it apart, replace the fans. I've had to clean out all the cobwebs and sand and blow them clean. And then, a lot of that requires, making sure all the cases and everything, and those things are running at 300 amps, 12 volts internally. So it's not like not like you got to be very careful on how you reconnect it and everything. Make sure everything's right before you plug it in. No testing and playing around, because those 3,000 watts at 12 volts is not fun if you make a mistake. From 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Looks like
Yeah.
free power at nighttime. And to be honest, I would be mining as much as possible at nighttime and picking up additional miners, because if it's free and unlimited at nighttime, I would be setting up
a bigger impact by having two
farm.
miners than, yep. Definitely, you could basically get two miners and make up for that daytime solar. Yep. I'm assuming it's Texas, because the only one I know that has free power at night at this point is somewhere in Texas.
Yep.
Send a link for the miners. Did your link post?
I tried to. It wouldn't allow me to. I did put it in the private chat.
I see it. I haven't done it yet. Let me just grab that and post it for him. All right. That's the link, but it should be clickable in the chat. Unless you're on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's giving me a notice saying that it won't allow me to post it, but yet it does show that it posted. So I don't know which is true, but either way, it's on the screen if you need it. All right, now let's go back up here real quick. Thanks, Paul. No worries. That's what I was talking about. Dead time electric repair. Do you put 12,000 XP in battery backup mode so that it'll only use batteries and the grid goes down? And since it's a 12,000,
I can answer that.
I'll let you answer that.
So I have mine configured quite a bit different than most people, and I'm going to explain why. In my forum, windsolarforum.com, one of the forum members had an issue with his 12,000 XP, and it's not just a 12,000 XP. It's most of the inverters that I've come across that take solar, that take input from the grid. There is the ability that it would leak back a small amount onto the grid, and he ended up getting into a pickle with the electric company and with his county. My recommendation would be to set it up the way that I have mine set up. Either use a transfer switch or use a interlock switch on your service panel. And that's how I have mine set up, is the interlock on the service panel. So when I switch between the two, it's either one or the other. So there's no way it can backfeed even small amounts of power to the grid. So if you're trying to figure out how do I switch between the two, I would say if it's a non-permitted installation, you want to be cautious, because if there is power on the line and they detect it, they're going to be potentially knocking on your door. So I would do the transfer switch, or I would do a interlock. And then as you need to switch over, it could be an automatic transfer switch, or you can have a manual one and just kind of do it that way. I know you can have it set up to where it's pulling off your inverters, and then once it's maxed out, it then does the pass through to the grid. There's different ways to configure it, but that would be my recommendation. That way it's always running off of batteries and solar whenever that you switch over to your 12,000 XPs. Hopefully that helps.
Couldn't figure out how to put myself back on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you talked long enough for me to figure it out.
There you go.
Okay, let's go back to...
Yeah, the way that I look at it is, unless you have an agreement with your electric company, don't touch their lines. Make sure that you're completely separate from it.
So, and we're going back to the large bit miner. So the large bit miner that I have, it does run in the backyard in my shed, and I have vents out the side of the shed. And so I would say that it's probably a bit louder than the normal air conditioning unit that runs, you know, when the air conditioning unit kicks on and it has the big fan running and everything. It's a little bit like that. Now, if the fans, and we're talking about CPU fans, and they're not CPU fans, these are like computer fans, and they're the standard 3-inch ones, and there's 4 of them. And it's the high speed ones, so they run at 6,000 RPM. So because they have those ball bearings in them, when those ball bearings start to wear out, those fans get very loud. So you do have to replace them. Unfortunately, they're not cheap. And that's where the problem comes in. I don't know how long a fan like that, you're in the IT industry also, Mike, how long do those 6,000 RPM ball bearing fans run?
So those fans should last 4 to 5 years. I actually have a brand new S19K Pro that I'm going to sell, that I bought it and I was going to use it and decided that I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to resell it. And with that turned on in the shop, with the fans, not mining, just on, with everything at high speed, I was able to hear it outside my metal shop approximately 150 to 200 feet away. And that's with
Yours are
having
noisy.
some insulation. It's loud and it's high pitch. So if you have neighbors close to you, if they're outside their house, they may hear it and say, "What is that?"
Yeah. And I would say that they probably would, you definitely could hear it if you were a neighbor. Now, one thing I have noticed, that if mine is vented out the side of the shed. It's got one of those like louver vents, and I'll take like a board or something old and lean it against it to where it just kind of muffles the sound down. Yeah, it just baffles the sound. And I've actually thought about building an actual box with foam in it that allows the air to come out nice and clean, but that baffles all the sound down. But to be honest with you, it hasn't been that bad. It wasn't as bad before because I always ran it on slow mode. But now that I'm running it on fast mode, where it's, you know, because I need the ability to burn the extra power, then yes, it's a little bit different than it was before. So it's going to be one of those catch-22s. Is it loud? Yeah, they're loud. There's no question. And yes, in Texas, that's what I kind of figured. So that's they are loud. I would say, I've got a 3.5 ton AC unit, and when it's on low mode and I put the board over to baffle it, it's probably about the same loud as that. It's not too bad. When the fans bearings were a little older, now the question is how old were the fan bearings on there? And I honestly don't know, because when I bought it, it was used. And when I went to replace the fans, I noticed that two of the fans only had 3,000 RPMs fans on it, and the other two were 6,000, and they were both supposed to be 6,000. So it was running the big fans at a higher speed to make up, because these couldn't put the air out. And so it has two on the front side that push it through, and then two on the back side that suck it out. And the two on the front side were 3,000 RPM. So it really wasn't cooling. Now it's much quieter, but the fans are brand new. How old the fans were, I don't know. I honestly, I don't have a clue. The expensive parts worked, so I'm not really worried about $100 in fans. But it did cost me $100 to replace the fans. 4 fans, $100. It's kind of crazy. All right, moving
The
on.
S19K Pro, I looked it up. The one that I have, it's 75 decibels in normal conditions, and high heat, high load conditions up to 85.
Yeah, and I can believe 85. I mean, if I took one of my open generators that runs and it says it runs at about 82 to 84, I would say that's probably comparable if it's in an open environment where I'm standing right there. But if you did anything to muffle it, now what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll muffle the vent the air into a big box, like I was talking about building a box, and then muffle, and then have another vent at the other end of that box, and then that just kind of muffles it, kind of like a muffler.
Right, right.
Build a muffler, and that does make a huge difference. Now, a lot of the times, if you look back at a lot of my videos when I was originally doing the solar shed, when I first moved back here to the house, I had the bit miner running during the live stream when I was out in the shed doing it. And you couldn't even tell it was there, but that was because the noise canceling mics, like the DJI mic here, will just kill that noise completely. Now, I was recording last night and it was on high mode and I had to shut it off. And I know it's quieter now than it was back then, but the difference is now last night I was running it in high mode. So in high mode, I had to shut it off simply because it makes my voice, muffles my voice so much. So it does make a difference.
For the one that I did post a link for, that one is in the 40s on low as far as decibel rating, and I believe it's 58 on high. So
It's
it
still
is
not quiet. It's still not
extremely
silent though. I mean, it's quiet, but it's not silent.
in low. I can't hear it running 5 feet away. I can't hear it.
Wow.
On high, you can hear it a little bit, but it's a low frequency fan. It's not a high pitch fan.
Oh, that high
So,
pitch squeal of those bearings is terrible. Yeah.
but you can put this on standard mode in your bedroom and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, and that's what they are. They're the 92, I think they're the 92 millimeter ones. Let me just make sure. Let's see. Fans.
so Donald, you are absolutely correct with the configuration. It does hug the line as you stated in your comment, and it says it prevents reverse flow. I would say it limits reverse flow. It actually can pass some of it to the line, and that's how one of my forum members got in trouble with his power company.
So I don't know if it says. Now these are 122 millimeters, not 93.
Yeah, they're 120s. Yep.
Yeah, they're 120s and at the 2.7 amps, because they've got the 1.65 amps, but those are the 3,000 RPM ones, and that was what it had in some of them. Let's see here. Thought I clicked on specs, but I guess it just decides to just sell me other products instead of show me the. Oh, here it is. 66. but it's 66 decibels times 4 fans. That's the problem. It's pretty, they're pretty loud. Okay. And don't remember what we were talking about. Yeah, you're talking about the noise level. Yeah, might build a box. I'm thinking about building one too. I mean, I might do it. And if I do, I'll post a video on it because now that I'm having to run it constantly, it's running all night long, and I'm kind of worried that I may attract the wrong kind of attention. So Felix says, my power provider doesn't care if I backfeed the grid as long as it meets the anti-islanding. The caveat is the kilowatt hours I push out a bill unless you are net metering. Yeah, which is true for most of them. I mean, they're gonna require the anti-islanding, and they're gonna require that you're not feeding back more than the lines that you have to you. In other words, if you have a 200 amp feed from the grid, you're not allowed to feed more than 200 amps to them. And that's because the line going to them doesn't support any more than the line coming from them. And so there's a lot of restrictions on that. I've seen that in a lot of the contracts that they put out on that. Donald, EG4 monitor inverter setting, and it locks one of these zero export modes. You know, you were talking about zero export while I got stuck out of my own live stream by not being able to find the right button. And I wanted to ask it, and this brings that question up. So have you actually, even on the grid feed in, you had problems where it was backfeeding, Mike?
One of my forum members did. So what had happened is he essentially, the electric company went to his house and said, whatever you're doing, you need to stop it because you're putting power on the grid. And he's got 412,000 XPs, and he's a forum member. So if you go to windsolarforum.com, it's there. So what happened is, well, he got upset with them, and he says, "Fine, just cancel my account then, turn off my service." So then they contacted the county, and then the
Can't have
county
a CO
sent
without
him.
electric, right?
Well, what happened is the county had reached out to him and gave him a cease and desist. Otherwise, they're starting charges against him. So
Cease and assist backfeeding or cease and assist getting disconnected?
Whatever he's doing electrically, cease and desist. So he's looking for lawyers right now, because what happens is the county can go out to him and say, show us how you are backfeeding. And if he shows the equipment and the equipment is not permitted, they can force him to tear everything down and, fine him daily until it's done. They can inspect your house, and there's no say that you have on it, because they have proof that you were backfeeding the grid, and that's a safety issue.
And it seems like the easiest thing for him to do is just to flip that big switch that says off on to off, and just don't use the grid, leave it all connected, and don't worry about it. They'll be happy that you're not backfeeding.
Right. So what happened is the power company did disconnect him, so he is 100% off grid, and he's got 4 inverters, and he has the EG4 server rack batteries. A very nice setup, and he also mines crypto, so it kind of falls in with everything that we're talking about. So when I followed up with him last week, because it had been about 2 or 3 weeks, and said, hey, where are you at? Did they reach back out to you? And he says, no, I haven't heard anything yet since I received that letter from the county. So I'll follow up with them again to see. Hopefully they just leave them alone, and it was one of those things. Here's a letter, stop what you're doing. Otherwise, if we hear anything else, we're going to go after you. Hopefully it's just, that, and it's not, all right, now we're going to show up at your house and inspect your electrical system, because that
Yeah.
then opens up another whole thing. And he had an electrician install it all. So it was as close to code as you can be. But when it comes to 12,000 XPs, you're not going to pass code with them, because the 12,000 XP is an off-grid inverter, and you need UL 9540A specification. And the only battery that had that specification with was the EG4 280 amp hour, which is no longer made. No other battery do you have that. So you never get the UL
Well, the
9540.
wiring has it.
It has UL 9540A. So UL 9540A states that if there is a fire, that it will stay inside the box. That's what UL 9540.
But it's the 9540. Any variation of the 9540 is the code, right?
No, they're two separate. So 9540A is not the same as 9540. It is part of 9540, but it is not 9540. You need UL 9540, which is a tested pair of inverter and battery storage system.
Right. It's both the
So
inverter and the storage for the quick shut off and the fire suppression and all of the different things. But I didn't realize there
correct,
was an A version of it also.
correct. So per code, if they are using NEC code, it will then look for that UL 9540, which you're not going to have that anymore unless you just have the 280 amp hour batteries, which are no longer sold. And the version 2 of the 12,000 XP does not have any batteries that it is UL 9540 with.
Oh, I'm just looking. If you guys
I
are
think that
wondering
would
what
be
I'm
a good
typing about,
video.
so I'm
And I've
just
been
looking at. So
thinking of
here's the
doing a
95.
video on
Yeah,
it.
so here's the 9540. 9540 is the complete system level certification, while the
Yep.
9540A is a specialized fire testing method that provides the data satisfactory certification for local building codes. So, but local building codes may be all that you're required. You may not require the full UL 9540.
Not per NEC. If you're
Well,
if
no,
you're
not for
using
NEC, but not all jurisdictions require the full one. It depends on what code book you're in, because very few of them have gone to the new code book that has the requirement for 9540. Now, the 9540A they would be, because that was the fire suppression. Now, I don't remember what the only reason I know is I looked this up for something else, but I didn't realize there was that big of a difference. Server rack batteries. Where am I at?
So I'm looking at it's NEC Article 706, but let me see if that's 2021 or 2023.
Yeah, and it's definitely 9540, and it has the 1970, the 73, and the 9540A. So then it would be just, are they requiring the fire suppression piece of it, which was the first part passed, or are they requiring the full connection between the two? Now, I know like California requires the full thing, but most of them only require the 9540A. Interesting. Either way,
It is interesting
it,
for sure. And I'm trying to see. So this is for NFPA 855 and UL 9540. 2023.
so
It's
it's a
the
2023 code
2023
books,
NEC.
which the 2023, and then the next one was the 2026, which very few people are on the 2026 yet, because they won't go to that till most of them won't go. Most jurisdictions won't go to that until January 2027. I think that's where I'm at.
And
And it's a
here's
3-year
something
book for
else.
those that don't know. It only comes out every 3 years.
Here's something else that I found out. So the first edition of UL 9550 actually came out in 2016, but no, or not UL 9540, that is. But in any event, it's important to know what code book your state is using and also what your county enforces. I don't want to say definitive, but
Yeah, so when I first got into looking at code, reading the code book a lot, and I found out that the code book comes out every 3 years. So
mhm,
2020, 2023, 2026, 2017. And then your jurisdiction will say we are using, they'll pass laws that say we use this code book plus these additional laws, rules that are on top of it. So what usually happens is you're on an older code book for most places, and that code book can be sometimes up to 6 to 9 years old. A lot of places are still running on the 2017 code book, but a lot of the PV code went in the 2023 and the new 2026 code book. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening there. But I know that the 9540, the full one, was overwritten in a lot of places early anyway, before they even published it. Like in California, it was completely and totally necessary then before it was even in an NEC code book. All right. Man, how did we get off on this daisy chain here? I don't even remember. We were talking about something completely different. All right, I made it through item number 1 on my list. And let's move to item number 2.
sounds good.
It's the way it goes. So let's go real quick through these. The forces of inverter, huge. The line prevents any reverse flow. Yeah, well, the setting does, but the problem is a lot of these settings are still controlled by the phase push, playing the pressure one side or the other. It's not perfect, and when things shift really fast, it still can push things one way or another. My guess is he's got a lot of large loads, and those loads would kick off, and that excess power would go shooting back the other direction.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
even
It can
though the
react.
inverter can respond to those and control it, it is controlling it with the phase shifting, kind of like the AC coupling. It slows it
Mhm.
down and speeds it up the same way. But that doesn't mean that if you have a big giant load that kicks off or on, that it wouldn't happen. That was when I heard it going on anyway. Let's see. How Florida does it. I've been had any issues, but guessing bills may be the way. It Paul, here we're very lucky. Our agreements, most of the agreements here in Florida with FPL are 1 for 1. You give 1 kilowatt, you get one back for free at some other time. They reconcile at the end of every month. If you're using more power than you have, then you pay for it. If you don't, they bank it until the end of the year, and that bank you can pull from for the rest of the year. So the cool part is January and February are a little bit close because you just finished wiping your bank clean, and then you build up over the summer months, and then in October, November, and December, you basically have this huge credit that you're burning down. And then on December 31st, they wipe it out, they pay you for anything that's left over, and you start back over from zero. But it is a 1 for 1. That's the really cool part. Um, but what was the other question about it? And mixed info on how Florida does it. I've never had any issues, but okay, then they have 2 meters here also. The smart meters allow for flow in both directions. The dumb meters allow it for one direction. There is absolutely no credit for it. And if you get caught, you'll be in a lot of trouble. Those are the ones that they're because it damages their equipment. Those are the ones, or at least I think it damages their equipment. I don't know that for sure. Maybe there's some electrician that can tell me.
If
But you're not supposed to be backfeeding those.
if I can make one suggestion, and I've read this on the forums because a few people have mentioned, and just like you said, large loads turning on and off sometimes a little bit is pushed back. And what I've heard some people do is they might have 2 separate panels. Power comes in, goes into one panel, and then they have that connect to a second sub panel where they have all their loads on. And what they'll do is on the primary panel, which is in between their inverter and everything else, they'll put a small constant load on there. So that way with the inverters, if it accidentally back feeds a little bit back in, it's absorbed because you have that constant load from
Oh, nice.
either a light bulb or whatever that it might be to constantly act as a buffer, if you will.
Yeah, and I don't know what I'm assuming that their big fear there is that the off grid is that the off grid inverter doesn't have the islanding properly set up to actually physically disconnect. And that way, when there is a lineman out there playing with it and they get
Hmm.
things working, it's going to instantly start sucking power and cause all kinds of problems. And it's all about safety in that sense. In that sense, I
Right.
get it. But um, all right, number two, um, what was your wake up call? I know mine was a hurricane. What was yours?
Constant power outages, and I have very expensive um, prescriptions. I know that you have prescriptions that you need to keep cold, and I'm not going to mention them. That would be up to you. I know for myself, I have to take these injection pens, and they're quite expensive. A month's supply is over 3,000, so it's covered by insurance. But if I had a power outage long enough to have those go bad, I normally have 2 to 3 months worth in my fridge. So that would be extremely expensive to try to replace. So that's where I started with solar, to have some sort of a backup so my medications couldn't go bad.
All right, I'm going to get to a couple of these questions and then we're going to get into the good stuff. The good questions. We got all our background finally covered. It only took us an hour and a half. 90 kilowatts a day in the summer, excess of 1,700 square foot home, ballpark for system to support that. So 90 kilowatt, I'm assuming that's 90 kilowatt hours a day of total usage. That's a pretty big system. And I'm gonna do my standard on it, and then we can talk a little bit more about details. And Mike, you can have your opinion there too.
Yep.
I'm a big believer that 2.5 to 3 times um, is where the sweet spot is, and I learned this from running around in my RV and stuff, and basically trying to live off grid completely and totally. That means that if you need 2.5 to 3 times, that can get you through most bad storms, bad weather, that type of stuff. But you have to be able to recover from it also. And 90 kilowatt hours a day is a lot of panels. So you're looking at 30, I've got 31 kilowatt panels on the house and another 31 sitting in my backyard. And they bring in 60 to 70 on typical days. Um, and I'm sure you could probably get a little bit more if they weren't, if they were properly installed, pointing all in the right direction and everything. My house isn't ideal. My fence installation isn't ideal either. So, but I would say on battery power, you're looking at quite a bit. I mean, 180 to 250 kilowatt hours. The real question becomes is what are your high loads are going to be? Because you're going to end up be somewhere between where I am at a little 6,000 XP to be able to run most of the stuff every day, and where he is, where he has 12,000 XPs to power his. Now, I think he's got that split between two systems. I assume one of
Hmm.
them has at least three of them on there,
Yep.
but that's still 3,600 watts. I mean, that is a large system, but that's to run everything. That's to run the refrigerators, the freezers, the dryers, the wash machines, the oven. I'm sure all of it at one time. I think the agreement Mike had, and I'm speaking for him here a little bit, he'll correct me, was that his wife says, yeah, you can do it, but everything's got to work like normal all the time.
Yep.
It's a great problem to have.
So I want to dive into this because this is
Sure.
a very good scenario. So 90 kilowatts a day, that is more than what my house and my shop use combined. And my house is about 2,200 square feet and my shop is 1,800 square feet. So I have 4,000 square feet under roof. You're using more power than I am. You're using more power than I am with mining crypto. So the first thing that I would look at before doing solar is getting that usage down. That would be my first thing. Now, You can get a power station or something small just to cover your fridge for emergencies. But I would you would have better money spent in the beginning making the house more efficient. So I'll give you an
Now,
example. So one of the ways that I'm trying to reduce the amount of solar that I need so I can mine more crypto is I need to add more insulation to my attic. So I have R38. You can rent the machine and get the blown in insulation and do it yourself. Really need two people, one at the machine feeding it and one person with the hose. But I'm going to bring mine from R38 to R60. That's going to drop my electric usage by about 20%, especially in the wintertime. I would look at ways to get your house more efficient, and then from there size the solar for what that you need. Because at 1,700 square feet, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with your house, but I would say it would be very expensive to build a system like that. To cover 3 days of cloudy days, you're talking 270 kilowatts of batteries.
now let's also look at what we're trying to accomplish here. And the real
True.
goal is, are you looking to reduce that bill? If you're looking to reduce that bill, and this goes back into what you said, I want to double
Right.
down on this one. I would never suggest that someone try to change the way their lifestyle is so that they can get onto solar. Solar, in my mind, should make it to where you can use more. And once you have it, you will use more. But I
Mhm.
think what Mike is trying to say is don't have the wastefulness that you have now. May be a 20 or 30, maybe a 50% increase in the power you already have, thus reducing the load that you need for solar, thus reducing the cost of the system that you have. So I think that I want to make sure that we're very
It
clear
is
about that. We're not saying don't use 90 kilowatt hours a day. If you're using 90 kilowatt hours a day because you like your air conditioner on 60 and you have a hot tub and a pool and a heated pond, more power to you, but you're going to need a big solar system to run it. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that once you do those optimizations, you got to make up your mind. Do you want to incrementally grow into something that can manage all of that, or do you want to buy something all at one time to do it? There's benefits to both of them, but that is a huge system because 90 kilowatt hours a day, just doing the simple calculation, I know that my bit miner running at 4,000 watts 24/7 is going to be just under 100 kilowatts a day. It's going to be at 96. And that means 24/7, I got 4,000 watts of power burning. That's like having a hot water heater run 24/7, having your stove on 24/7, having, I mean, your whole house running constantly. Now, if you've got a big family living in there, and constantly have, you got six people taking showers and babies and stoves and cooking, then fine. Don't take this to imply we're saying learn to live with less electricity. Learn to live with more electricity. That's the benefit of having solar. That's
right.
the cool part
Right.
about it. But learn to use the power as efficiently as possible also, because then you can do the stupid things that we do with solar. I burn more power bit mining in a single day than most people use in their entire. Matter of fact, I burn more power in my shed on bit mining than I do in my house. I actually monitor how much my house uses and make cutbacks in my house so I can pull some of that power into my shed to bit mine more. Honest story. So I don't want. I want to make sure that we're very clear that we're not saying don't use that amount of power, because I have no problem using that amount of power.
Right.
I just want to say, look, if I could do all of this with 60 kilowatt hours, then I could use the extra 30 for something else.
And even if you do DIY, if you're trying to hit 90 a day, Man, you're talking 75,000 DIY. I mean, it's
75.
grand to build it.
Oh, possibly, yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking 200. Let's just do the quick math here. So you get let's say that you're going to get a $3,000 worth of batteries for every 15 kilowatts. So you got, 200 and what did we say it was? 280,
Let's call it,
270?
you're going to have inefficiencies. So instead of 270, make it 300. So 300
300
kilowatts of batteries.
300 kilowatts of batteries divided by 15 kilowatt batteries. So you're going to need 20. They're about 3 grand a piece. So you're looking at $60,000 in batteries. You're probably looking at another 15 to 20 in inverters, and then another 5 to 10 in just miscellaneous pieces and parts. So you are looking at probably under 100 grand
Yeah,
if you
that's
do it yourself, if you don't have the labor, if you do it with existing DIY components that are out there and all of that kind of stuff. Now you start adding in labor from electricians and from solar companies and panel installations and all of that stuff. If you're not doing that yourself, and we didn't even talk about panels. I mean, for 90 kilowatts a day, you're going to need probably a good 60 to 90 panels array. You're going to need a good 25 or 30 kilowatt system, I would probably guess.
probably more than
Um,
30 kilowatt.
yeah, so if even at 30 kilowatts though, let's say that you do 30, you're looking at, but panels aren't too bad anymore, but you're looking at 15 to $20,000 worth of panels. And then you got to just the wiring and the solar wiring and all that. So if you get into the electrician piece, you probably could be pushing 200 grand.
Yep, you can hit it. You can hit it. But if you do
But
DIY, 75 up to 100, and we're talking name brand battery. If you're talking off brand, it's gonna save some on the batteries. But yeah, it's a big system. So and that kind of goes back to what I was saying. It's cheaper to make the house more efficient. So when you build the solar setup, it doesn't have to be as big. So if you can do insulation, so for example, going from R38 to R60, if you rent the machine and blow it in, you're looking at $1,500. If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and rent the machine and everything else. So, and if that lowers your usage by 20%, now that makes a huge difference. Now, my
yeah,
next question, here we go. Very old house, lathe and plaster, old windows will be moving. So hopefully new house will better start, but gives me a new perspective. Awesome. Perfect.
all right. I'm going to go back up to the next one. I scrolled down, I grabbed his. So he's got a lot of improvements that he can make there. But by all means, it can be done. Don't misinterpret it.
Right.
It's just going to be expensive. That's the point. But probably the most important thing to do is if you're truly honestly looking to do something like that, is start playing with it, build something, convert something, make a shed, turn your entertainment system into solar, put in an air conditioner that runs on solar, do something so that you can learn the basics before you try to build a system that big. Check the code for Benton County unincorporated zone.
I can answer
I
that
think,
one.
okay,
So I
go
looked
ahead.
up for Texas specifically, it is using NEC 2023.
Hmm.
So unless your county does something different than the rest of the state, it's using 2023.
So the minimum requirements will be coded from 2023, and then they may have additional requirements on top of that, but
Right.
it won't be less than that. Donald says, I push back 1 kilowatt of my regular digital meter and build me for 1 kilowatt. Yes, it will. It only runs one way. It's like those little cheap amp meters. If you put power in your battery, it runs one way, and if you take power out, it runs the same way. Yep,
So you get charged for what you're pushing out. Nice.
yep. You 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 get charged for the power coming in, and you get charged to give it back. That's
But
wonderful.
that's good, Donald, because they're not seeing that you're pushing back on the grid. Whereas if your meter showed both
Yeah,
ways,
it was Felix.
Was it Felix? Okay.
Yeah, I had
Pushback
already
1
switched.
kilowatt. Yeah. So that's the good situation because they can't tell that you're pushing back.
Well, they can't tell from your meter. That doesn't mean they can't tell from some other
Well, right. If
means.
if alignment is outside your house, then yeah. But as far as your meter, it's not going to show, any sort of negative usage for a day or part of the day, something that would pose a question to them.
Yeah. Cheating older model HVA6 home 2400 NT 2000 watts. Connect it directly to the compressor side of the contactor. Thermostat controls. Turns off contactor microinverter. Must not
Nice,
backfeed used.
nice. I see what he's doing.
Turn off contractor microinverter cannot backfeed used on. Oh yeah, that's a
Yep,
cheat.
nice.
We have brownouts from time to time, and I wanted to take advantage of time and use plans available here. Yeah. Well, it's a good time to start. We're all getting the brownouts now. I mean, like I said, I've had a couple in the last couple weeks, which didn't used to ever happen, but it's going to get more common, especially in this heat and as electric consumption goes up. So welcome. Glad to have you. We'll be glad to help you.
It's funny. My state recently with this heat dome had said, turn off unnecessary loads, and said to the state to conserve power. And at that point, I'm off the grid, and I'm like, well, I'm doing my part.
All right, so I use around 25 to 40 kilowatt hours a day, depending on season, and that is the actual national average. So you are an average home.
Mhm.
The national average is right at 30 kilowatt hours a day. Now that I hear a lot of people say that, and they say, well, then why do you need this or why do you need that? Just because the national average is 30, that means just for every person that's below it, there's somebody above it. So for every person that's sitting at 10, there's somebody sitting at 50. And if we got somebody sitting at 90, then that means there's a whole bunch of people sitting at 10 for that guy. I live in a 1,700 square foot home. I have 4.4 kilowatt hours in the yard.
Yep, 15 to 20,000 watts a day.
Yep. And a lot of that depends on where you're living. I know here, most of us can go out and look up how much sun you get in your area, and I encourage you to do that. So like, for example, I know where I live, I get 5.5, average 5.5 hours year round of sun every day. That means if a solar panel should produce 400 watts, then I'm going to get an average of 400 times 5.5 every day. That's average. And so you got to be careful using that way. But it does make for a very easy way to analyze your solar panels and to know how many and what you're going to need. And you have to accommodate for slow seasons too, because winters can be very, very hard for a lot of people. For me, it works out better sometimes in the months after summer and the months right after winter than it does in summer,
You bring
surprisingly.
you bring up an excellent point. When you're sizing your system, if you are trying to cover most of your loads, then you can go by your average usage. If you are instead trying to go completely off grid, you have to look at the last few years for the worst month that you've had on record and then size your system for that, which is a completely different scenario. And even at that, you still might have to tap your generator to
So
to cover you.
no, you're absolutely right. And this, if you guys are really interested in finding out what size system you need for it, And this website is pvwatts.nlr.gov. It's a government website that's built to help you size a system. You can put in your zip code, you can put in your address, you can put in practically any type of information you want. It'll tell you your longitude and latitude. You just hit next, and it'll take you over to what size system that you want and all that kind of stuff. And you can basically go in here and play with the different stats and the different figures of, okay, I'm going to buy this many panels. I'm going to build a tilt them at this degrees. I'm going to, point them towards, directly towards the south at 28 degrees, which would be my optimum thing. And I'm going to have some losses. Most of the time I consider this about 8% in, 8% out. So I usually bump this up to about 16, which is a little bit, 16.29 is the actual average losses of stored the power as opposed to use it directly. So I usually go with 16 because a lot of it is used during the day as opposed to stored. You can tell it if it's a fixed rack, build up all this type of stuff. And then when you go to the next one, it gives you this cool chart of here's your average hours during each day and what it would actually generate. And you can take that back to, like Mike was saying, look at your last couple of years and say, am I going to have enough power in January? Because this one's going to only generate 463 kilowatt hours in January. But if I look down, it'll generate 519 in October and 500 in July. So this were 568 in May. So this is a really good site for playing with that. And you can build out, okay, I'm going to have 6 panels here and I'm going to have 8 panels here. You can get into very complicated scenarios and setups to do it. But this probably is, of all the websites out there, this is probably one of the most, I wouldn't say user-friendly, it's most useful websites when it comes to it. But this is usually the number that most of us need to know. What is your average annual consumption? This allows you to just basically take number of solar panels that you've got. I got 500, or I got 1,000 watts of solar panels, and that means I'm going to have 5.57. Take 5.57 times 1,000. I'm going to get 5 kilowatts a day out of this. 5.57 kilowatts. So it's a pretty easy way to do it. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. If you want to get perfect, you're going to have to take these numbers month by month. You're going to have to go in and play with Excel and build yourself a chart and make it really complicated and fancy. But I'm sure Mike will attest to this also. Most of the time, you come out with the same answer after you've done all that work if you work with this average. It pretty much comes out pretty close. The only thing it doesn't answer is those peak and those minimum months. These are the ones you really have to pay attention to. Here, it's December, my low month. In your location, it may be a completely different answer. You may have a completely different time that you need to deal with. But this is probably one of the most useful places to help you come up with what you're going to need for that. It doesn't solve the problem for disaster. Disaster, you're still going to have to look at how long do I need to run completely unattended. I know that if I can get 2.5, 3 days, that most of the time the hurricane will be here for 2 days. And then afterwards, I'm going to get a whole lot of sun. And then I have a generator to give me another couple days after that. Therefore, I can buy 6 or 8 days in my system. That's kind of the way I look at it. And then, of course, going crazy with batteries is also fun. Anyway, sorry, long-winded answer to a very short question.
But I think it's
Mike.
it's important for sure. And the other thing too is when you're sizing out the system, especially with the panels, that's at optimal angle for that time of year. So if you're doing a fixed mount and say you're just mounting them at 30 degrees, but your winter angle is 50 degrees, you're not going to get the output that you expected in the wintertime. So there's a lot of things that you have to calculate in. You have to calculate in losses as well. So if
that's what a lot of that site helps you with. It helps you with those angles. It helps you with that loss calculation. It helps you with that annual production, the different production for each month. One of the craziest things that I learned this year, because I mounted a whole bunch of my panels in my backyard, is that the sun actually goes, the angle of the sun goes so far that my July, which should, based on that chart, was close to my highest production month. is going to be lower than the months
Hmm.
around it, simply because the top of the fence, the shadows were coming down over the first 4 or 5 inches of the panels and shadowing it during the best part of the day. So now I'm like waiting for the sun to move back,
I'm in the
move
same
back across the sky a little bit. So
same
where you put the
situation.
panels and the angles makes a huge difference. And
I've got,
and
go ahead, sorry.
and that swing, I'm sorry, Mike, that swing is much more dramatic than you would think also. So for example, in pure summer days, right now, I should be at about 5% for ideal production. But during November and December, I need to be closer to 49 to 53 or something like that. So there is a huge swing in there, and that's where you'll find that most places have an average that's best annual production. That doesn't mean it's the best production all the time. That means it's the best production for the entire year at an average. Huge, huge difference. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you again.
No, no, my apologies. Similar situation with me. So the back row of my panels, it's close to a tree line. And as the branches, even though most of the year I'm fine, it's just in July, high noon, it just kind of creeps over that top part. And this fall, I'll be up on a tall ladder, A-frame ladder, and trimming, to get rid of some of those branches because, yeah, it's been affecting me. The other thing too is these high temperatures. Temperature also affects panel output. So if it's too hot, you're going to lose a bit of output.
Yeah. And these are the little things that you don't know until it actually happens. I would have never dreamed when I was setting those panels up that, I needed to put a 6 inch standoff from the fence in order to get the panels to have sunlight year round, especially not in the middle of the summer. I mean, that's the most sun there is. But all right. Everything normally with my Watt Cycle Hybrid 12K inverter and two 16 kilowatt hours batteries. Yep, that'll do it. That'll run the majority of most people right there. You got the
Yes.
30 kilowatt, and you're going to hit that average. You're going to have that 24 hours that you've got in there. You can most likely, you can easily recharge overnight or over during the day. The problem is that the lack of autonomy is where things really start to get difficult during the hurricanes, during the long-term outages, during the snowstorms or the ice storms or whatever the case may be. But normal operation and saving money, absolutely. 90 kilowatt hours sounds high to me. I have 1,500 square foot house and 50 kilowatt hours on a 100-degree day. I get energy monitor and see what pulling all the power. The one thing that I learned in the last couple of weeks, I published a video back, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. It's been done extremely well. And the one thing I've learned is that for every person who tells me I've got 5 kilowatt, I only use 5 or 10 kilowatts a day, and I can get by with, two 16 kilowatt batteries and so on and so forth. There are just as many that are sitting at the 100 kilowatt side of things and can't get by with it. They're not as vocal about it because they pay the bill and move on, and because it's not such a practical, easy solution for them. But it's becoming more practical and easy solution. But it does
Yeah.
seem high to us too.
And I've seen people get upset in some of the forums, like Facebook forums and things like that, because they'll get an inverter, they'll get a couple of batteries, and if they still have the high usage and they're trying to run everything, that battery might not get them through the night. And their thought was, I have this inverter, I have these batteries, I can go a week. No, it depends on your usage. That's
Yeah.
where sizing really comes in.
Now this quote is a really good one because this is something that I think I alluded to earlier, but I think this puts it a little bit more succinctly. The solar installer says it is cheaper to produce it's cheaper to reduce than it is to produce. And I think what he's stating there is that that's the difference that I was stating earlier. There's a difference between supplementing being on the grid and being off grid. It is one thing to have a $200 electric bill and reduce it, because you can just reduce it by throwing some panels up there, putting on some micro inverters, getting a backfeed agreement. You put a breaker box in and feed it back. I've seen 4 or 5 of those systems in the last month or so. They work great. They produce electricity when the grid's up. They shut off when the grid's off. They have no inverters, nothing except micro inverters. They work great, but they only produce when the grid's there, and they only reduce your bill. They don't actually produce anything for you. When that grid goes off and all that, you lose everything. So it's very difficult to go off grid like that, especially in a bigger systems. Oh my, I thought 20 kilowatt hours in my 800 square foot home in Chevy EVU is quite excessive in the summer. Well, like I said, for everyone under, there's somebody over.
It's funny. I have a few different friends that have Chevy Bolts. They absolutely love them as a place to put loads in and draw them from. So very cool.
It makes you, I thought I went looking for it the other day, and I thought, how they come out with those, what do they call them? Balcony chargers and stuff like that, where you
Yeah,
just like,
plug-in solar.
you just plug in solar and stuff. And
Hmm.
I thought I saw a EV equivalent of a balcony charger the other day. And then I went look back to looking for it because I thought to myself, oh, I'll go back and look at that here in a few minutes. And I was busy doing something, and it disappeared. And I haven't been able to find it since. But it was like, okay, now that would be really cool if they get to the point where they can actually do that. Because then you could stick it in the back of your seat in the hurricane and take it with you. So when you get stuck on the side of the road, you have a way to recharge. Unincorporated counties, different rules. Yes, they do. That makes the grid tie testing less of an issue. The power in or out getting charged the same way. Yeah, it
Yep.
does. It's you just got to make sure that if you're doing that, that you don't produce more than you're using at the time. But pretty much the fact is if you're just producing from a couple of microinverters, a couple of small ones for a few 100 watts, chances are your home is always consuming that when the sun's out anyway. Or hook you a relay up to your air conditioner and only come on when the air conditioner kicks on. That'll fix that wagon. Um, it's 7:45 p.m. and I have 80% of my 32 kilowatt batteries. It's an interesting question. I turned on the running at 2300 watts. And I got 76. So we started, where did we start? We started back there at the beginning of this at 80%. It's burning. It'll burn like that all night now. I'm probably gonna have to bump it up to 5 kilowatts in order to get it, or to high speed in order to burn down far enough overnight. Let's see. Mike, have you played with that automation yet for the bit miner? Has it worked
I
for you?
haven't. I haven't. I would definitely get to it. It's one of those things. Find the time to play around with it. So the next step is I've got that hum sync inverter. I've got to make room on the wall for it. Do a review on that. Once that's set up and done, I've got a few other reviews, and then I'm going to start putting those additional panels out. So maybe sometime this winter, I'll get to that, or in the spring doing the automation. But you know how
I'm
it is. You
beginning to
have a huge
wonder.
list.
Yeah, I know. I'm beginning to wonder if, I've noticed some oddities in my I knew my fans were acting up and I fixed that. So I'm wondering if I have another oddity with one of the controller boards that occasionally it comes on and then it just goes into error fault mode and doesn't start. And then I just shut it off and turn it back on. It comes right on back perfectly. So I'm wondering if maybe that is the same issue that they were having when they sold it as a used unit. And maybe that controller actually works better than I thought. But I've still, I've tried playing with it quite a bit since then, and I cannot get, when I first installed it, it looked like it was working just fine. But then I noticed when I would switch from normal to speed that it would like shut down. Now I'm beginning to wonder if it was actually wasn't it that was causing the problem, if it was the bit miner itself. So it'll be interesting to see how yours works. But I know it wasn't as reliable as I hoped. The only thing that's been reliable is using that Shelly to do that relay. That's very, very reliable.
So that's similar to what I'm going to do. Since I have these smaller miners that have low draws on them and they can run on 120, I'm just going to use Shelly plugs, plug it into that, then have the thermometers, or temperature sensors that is, sitting on top of the miners, which does two things. Number one, if the temp goes over 90, turn it off, which means it's too hot to mine. But number two, if there's an issue with the miner and it starts smoking, it cuts the power. So that's the other.
Oh, you're going to run it through the Shelly?
You know,
Through the Shelly relay? Oh, okay. Now, see, I
because if it's
actually
only
hooked the
drawing
Shelly up
800
to an
watts,
AC. Yeah. And I ran mini splits in my RV through the Shellys and they ran fine. I mean, they run at 1100, 1200. So you can get good 10 amps out of them safely. I don't think I
that's
would
what
use the 15 they suggest, but I was able to
no.
pull 10 on a full consistent basis through full hot days with no problem.
Yeah, and if I do 800 watts, I think I'll be fine. The other thing too is I have another Shelly device, and I forgot the name of it, but that I'm going to use to essentially get the true voltage off of my batteries. And then that way it will also feed into those plugs to where it's going to say, if it's over 90, turn it off. But also, if the battery SOC due to voltage drops below 80%, turn it off as well. So that way everything will float and just be happy.
Let's get you a Victron shunt, and they have two voltage sections on there. And when you,
Okay.
so and here, I'll show
I
you.
have one already. I'd have to pick up a second one. So you're saying just connect it up to the system, up to a bus bar.
Yeah, so when you did your, let me just see if I can find it here real quick. So when you set up your Victron, you can set it up to the MQTT integration. So that way it just connects right to it into like Home Assistant, which you can use Home Assistant to control your Shellys and stuff. But the nice thing is I connected, this one labeled here as charger isn't actually a charger. I got a Victron shunt and then told Victron in the VRM, you can tell the device that you want it to act like a charger. And so then it reports everything like a charger. And there are two voltage connections on a shunt that come with it by default. And you can hook one for it to calculate the amps and stuff, which you want that one to actually be right. But you can take the other one, and some people hook it to their starter battery in their vans or whatever. It also has a thermostat if you wanted to buy a thermostat connector. But I would suggest you take that second one and put it where you want the voltage test for your, what am I trying to say?
You're saying, okay, so because the thing is, I'm not going to have Bluetooth access to the shunt.
This is not Bluetooth. This is Wi-Fi. But this is going through a...
I don't know if that's going to work. And the reason why I say that is my bus bars and everything in there are going to be in metal conduit boxes.
Well, there are a ton of ways to hook this up. I mean, you could run a Wi-Fi connection in there, plug it in directly. I run it through a Raspberry Pi that's plugged into the internet, and then that's plugged into a USB to the VM cable that plugs into it. And then on that, I just run the Victron. And then on the other system that I have, my test system, which is this one up here, it's the same thing. The difference is this one's ran through an actual servo unit. To be honest with you, the cost is a wash
Right.
because the servo unit costs a little bit more, but then you don't have to buy the adapter cables and all that kind of crapola. And so, to be honest with you, one or the other, you end up paying about the same price. But the nice thing about these is that you do end up with the multiple voltage, um, readings, and you can set one for where you're going to calculate your amperage and all that stuff for your measurement, which obviously you
Hmm.
want that to be as close to
Right.
where the shunt is as possible. But the other one you can set to any battery you want. I mean, you can even set it off into a completely different system, which is kind of cool. And then you can use that for all your triggers and everything.
I just thought of something. Tell me if this would work. So I've got my server rack batteries in there in the rack, and I'm going to have a T-class fuse there for that rack mounted on the rack. I could also mount the shunt there. And not that I'm trying to get amperage out of that, because that I don't care about for this situation. I can just read the voltage, and Wi-Fi then would work, and that would send it to Home Assistant, which then could trigger the Shelly smart plug based on the voltage of the batteries to know the state of charge.
Oh, yeah. Almost all
I
of the
do
Victron
that.
devices would read the voltage for you. I mean, you can get the voltage out of, heck, if you don't want to spend, you can find one of their cheap charge controllers would have so like one of their cheap charge controller, that one's not going to be active because I got it unplugged.
Well, their shunts
One of
are
their
cheap.
cheap
I can
charge
just,
controllers would have the voltage also. So they all
hmm,
have a voltage sensor that you actually put on where you want the voltage to come from.
right.
And that you'll be able to read from any of them.
Okay. I might do that. That
And
might work
and
better.
there's both wired and Bluetooth connections there. And it's not your normal scan the Bluetooth, ether where you have to worry about someone poking into it. You actually go in and pull the security code out of the app and say, here's the encryption key that the app is using, and it connects through the encryption key and everything. So it's all encrypted and safe,
Hmm.
where it's still
Okay.
protected.
Yeah, I might do that.
Okay. Let's see, what do we got here? I get about 25 kilowatts a day from solar. That's not too bad. You got 32 kilowatts of battery. I used to think that when I first got involved in it, when I first got involved with solar, and I still kind of believe part of it is that if I could go up on 10% of my battery each day, that it didn't matter how big my battery bank was, I could always recover. And I kind of still believe that. If I needed 3 days of autonomy, let's say I needed 3 days of autonomy and I'm using 90 amps or 90 kilowatt hours, then that means I need 270 kilowatt hours stored. That doesn't mean I have to generate 270 kilowatt hours a day to replenish my batteries. So if I generate an excess 20 or 30 kilowatts a day, I would recover most of that because I would never use it all in a single day either. And that would allow me, so I used to believe that 10% was the right number. Cost effective wise, I still believe it's the right number. If you got a 60 kilowatt hour battery bank and you use 30 a day, then you need to be able to generate 36 in order to put 6 kilowatt hours in there. But there's some ups and downs to that. There's so many different calculations here you can do. I don't know how you calculated yours in the past of how fast you like to recharge. It seems to be there's a lot of different theories with this.
I think if you're trying to go fully off grid, the math completely changes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because if you have a week of no sun, the panels don't do much.
No, they don't. But that's where your backup to your backup is.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
you have to be able to recharge at a reasonable rate, but what is reasonable and what is practical are two different things sometimes. And plus, you have to have room for the panels. I mean, I think the minimum, let me restate that. I think the minimum that you need to be able to do is what your usage would be plus 10%. And that means that if you use 20 kilowatts a day, you need that to generate the 20 kilowatt hours a day, plus you need to generate 10% of your battery bank power. And so if your battery bank is 90 kilowatts and you use 20, then you need to be able to generate 29 kilowatt hours. And that would allow you to replenish and always be moving towards the positive side of things. Now, you hit some bad weather and stuff, then you're going to have to count on your autonomy. But you shouldn't be accounting on your autonomy every day. That should be a circumstance where you do have a rainstorm, you do have a hurricane, you do have an outage of some kind. Not just every day I need the battery because I got 15 kilowatts of battery and I use 15 kilowatts. Because a lot of people do their system like that. They'll have a 15 kilowatt hour battery and they use 22 kilowatts a day and they got 30 kilowatt generation of solar panels and they count on that power from the generation. And then when they end up in a bad situation is because they don't have any sun generation and they were counting on all that juice.
It's a good point. The other thing too is law of diminishing returns. If you have a $25,000 system, which is a very big system that you DIY'd, is a $100,000 system going to be 4 times better? No,
No.
because that $25,000 system for most people would cover 90%, 80% of all situations. Whereas for the people that are trying to do 100% off grid, you either have very deep pockets or you have a house which is so efficient that it has minimal loads, or all you need are minimal loads. Like a lot of people, they're 100% off grid for a cabin. Well, the cabin has lights and the cabin might have this and might have that, but it's not their regular house that they're trying to have all the creature comforts. So bigger isn't always better.
Well, and this goes back to what we said before. It's easy to satisfy your needs 90% of the time. You spend 50% of your cost doing that. And then you're going to spend another 50% to get that last 10% to go completely off grid. So you spend, $20,000 on a solar system and you can be 99% of the time never have a problem. But to get that last percent where you never have a problem, ever, you're going to have to really push in the investment. It's a hard one to swallow.
Because you're looking at that 100-year flood or that 100-year storm or whatever that it might be.
Yeah.
Now you're building in the redundancy of the power company to be your own 100% power company.
Yeah. Well, the easiest way to know, and this is the easiest way to know, turn your panels off, switch the grid off, figure out how long you can actually last. Try it. Because nothing is like trying it. Testing your system, I cannot stress how important it is. Because you don't know how things work until you actually use them. Matter of fact, I would venture to guess, and this is going to be a complete made up number, and I'll probably get some crap about it online, and I'm sure I'll hear some feedback about this. I would bet that 50% of all the people who have solar systems are scared to find out what happens when their solar goes under 10%. So they've never actually tried it. And I guarantee you, when you have that hurricane and you have no other option but be cold or run it under 10%, you're going to want to know that 10% works.
Agreed.
Or you're going to want to know that 10% just means that your battery is going to be dead at 8.
There's a really good question that just came up from Vinterwolf69. It says, I have 19.25 kilowatt system and I am adding 32 kilowatts of storage and I'm second guessing the battery storage amount. I would say this, if you're in most parts of the United States, you're probably going to average about 4 hours of sun a day So that 19, we'll call it 20 times 4, you're going to hit 80. And you have 32 hours of storage. You'll, depending on your usage, you're going to top off those batteries probably by 11 o'clock every day in the morning.
Yep.
If you're,
Even if you're full usage, you're going to top that off pretty quick. 19.25 kilowatt system is basically 100 and that's a lot. That is a lot. I mean, if that's
depending on where
solar,
you're at, Florida, you're going to get what, 5.5 hours during the
but even
summertime?
without 5.5 hours, I mean, even with only 3 hours, you're looking at 60 kilowatts a day, 60
Yeah.
kilowatt hours for 3 hours. Now, if you're anywhere in, this south part of America, that's going to be closer to 4.5 or 5. And if you're up north, as far as Canada, it's going to be at least 2 or 3, even in the bad months. Unless, of course, you have
Winter
snow or
Wolf,
something.
what's your usage per day? I think that's going to be probably the bigger determining factor
Yeah.
in if you
Yep.
need more batteries or not.
Yeah. What is your usage per day? That's the big one. Because ideally, we'll state it out loud. Ideally, I don't know what, Mike, I'm not sure if you have the same opinion as me. Ideally, for me, 2.5 to 3 times your daily usage is what that battery bank should be sized at. That's not practical. I don't have 2.5 to 3 times. I don't know that everybody ever makes it there, but 2.5 to 3 times, I know from being in the RV and having it there, it is way easier to make solar work. You start doing things that just you would never dream of doing before. Like before I had 2.5, I would turn the hot water heater off and only turn it on when it needed to. And I would try to use gas when I thought I could get away with it, if I thought it was going to be close or whatnot. When I had 2.5 to 3, I just left it on. Unless I realized, you know what, things are starting to not look like I'm going to make it, like there's going to be some bad weather. Let's shut it off until I actually need it. So you start doing things that you normally wouldn't do once you have that 2.5 to 3.
So with myself, my solar panel output per day, let's just say if that's 20,000, we'll use that as a number. Say I'm putting out 20 kilowatts a day. My batteries would be 60. So I have 3 times what my panel output is for the day. And you know what my actual numbers are, but I have 3 times what my usage is. I use 60, depending on if I have to charge a car. I have too many splits and 2 heat pumps. Holy moly. Okay.
So yeah, you're going to run into even having enough power depending on
Yeah.
where you live, because you got 20 kilowatt system, which means you're going to be generating. Let's just assume you're in the Texas, Florida area type thing. Let's
You
call it
can't,
5 hours a day average annual. Unless you
even
just answered.
simpler, while you're doing that, most, because he says charging his cars, most electric cars, the battery's bigger than 30 kilowatt hours. So you'll drain your solar batteries just trying to charge one car.
Yeah, so I mean you're looking at 97. Well, if he's already using it, so it's already included in that 60 to 120 a day. So you're looking at producing 97.5 kilowatt hours a day, Northeast Ohio. So let's see if I can pull up Northeast Ohio. Let's go back.
And also, you get those cloudy, gray winters if you're in the Midwest.
I want to start over. Why can't I start over? See if it just lets me put in Ohio. Oh, look at that, it did. Cool. All right, so you have 19 point, what did he say? 19 point?
19.25.
19.25. Let's put in the 20% pure south, fixed racks, best scenario. Wait, that's system losses. What the hell am I doing? That's 16, 19 point, did you say 19.56? Is that what you said?
19.25 is the solar panel array.
Okay, 19.25. We're going to put it in ideal position, mount it perfectly, all on a nice rack facing south at 20-degree angle. And we're going to say, go to the next phase. And so you're looking at 4.5 average. Now, cool part is June and July, you've got tons of power. But in January and in December, you are going to be hurting.
That's those gray days. Yep.
Yeah. So
I grew
let's
up
see
in
what
Chicago. I remember those.
So he said 90, 60 to 120. So let's just put it right in the middle. Let's say 90 a day. 90 times 30 days is 2,700. So 2,700 means that in July, you're going to have enough power. Every other month, you're going to fall short. And this is the math that all calculations and spreadsheets and crap you don't want to do, because this takes into account your specific area. You can even get more specific if you want and break it down. But if you wanted to get to 2,700, now here's where this gets really cool, is if you wanted to get to 2,700, you could say, okay, well, what happens if I have, 30 kilowatts of solar power, and I click it, and now I'm 27, I'm only suffering in what, 2 months? 3 months? 4 months. So 4 months out of the year, I'm within 500 or 600 kilowatts. But this December is still even going 50% more solar panels. That's going to be a very hard nut to crack. And that's assuming, now I'm assuming that the 120 would be the high months of usage here. And let's see if the 60 would get you into those low months. 60 times 30 is 1,800. So that would put you pretty close if your low month usage is down here in December. But you're going to need 30 kilowatts of solar panels, not 20.
I think in this he was talking about his adding more battery storage. I have 19.25 and I am adding 32 kilowatt hours of battery storage. So I'm guessing he only has 32. So it's not size for the panels that he has. He's going to need more
I guess the
panels.
question is, but you know what? I think the important thing to remember here is that his batteries, if he's just looking to have enough storage for overnight, and he's using 90 during the day, my guess is the majority of that is going to be during the day. And that would be 60 of it in the day and 30 of it at night. So he may have enough batteries to make it through the night, But the problem is, does he have enough solar to charge those batteries given the next day's usage?
If it's an emergency setup only, and that's where my frame of reference is that if this is just emergency only, if the power goes out and he's out of power for 3 days, he's going to have enough battery to get through the first night, get through part of the next day, and if the sun isn't shining, he has no power at all.
Well, but you're assuming that he curves his 60 to 120 kilowatts of usage.
Correct.
To accommodate a 30 kilowatt thing. We don't know what the circumstances are. He may not be able to curve it. He may curved may be 60 or 50 kilowatt hours. I would love to say, okay, well, I think he can cut it back and do 30 a day, but that's not the math problem at hand here. Although some of it is mini splits and heat pumps and that stuff. So it's all not a mandatory. Obviously, during a disaster like that, for me, I know that I would pick a room and turn the AC on in that one room.
Right.
Unless, of course, I was producing enough where I didn't have to worry about it and turn the whole house on.
with his batteries at 32 kilowatts, I
Yeah.
think the first thing is to beef up those batteries. How many? I guess the next question is, how many days do you want to be able to go um,
The,
without sun?
and
So
the,
if there's a storm that knocks everything out and it's cloudy for a few days afterwards, do you want to be able to keep running at least your critical loads? I mean, or do you
I
want to
think I
run
would
everything?
measure, yeah, but before I even did that, I think I would measure once that sun goes down till that sun comes back up. What is your usage between those times? Because if your usage between those times is 38 kilowatts, you're you're not going to make it. Your battery is
Right,
not big enough to make it. And that said, let's go back one more step further than that. If you do need the 32 kilowatts, you don't have, with 19 kilowatts of solar panels, you don't have enough power to charge the batteries. Because we go
right,
back
because
to this chart here.
you're
Yeah,
using
you're using it
everything
all.
that came in, you burned.
Right.
Unless you're curbing your usage because it's a power outage scenario, and then you may be able to charge the batteries back up. But I would think at a minimum, you want to double your battery size from 32 to 64 at a minimum.
Yeah, I would at least, I would say the usage is where the problem comes in, and it determines on how much efficiency you can get from the usage and maybe make some cuts there. But you're absolutely right. The battery size, I think, probably at least needs to be double, and the solar panels probably needs to be more too. You're not generating enough to cover everything as it
Right.
stands. I mean, this is what you're generating here, and your minimum usage per average per month is 1800. 1800 doesn't even sound right. 60 times 30, 1800. So you're going to be using between 1800 and 3600 a month. If you're up at that 120 usage, or even close to that 120 usage, you never, ever, not one day of the year are you going to generate enough power to cover that. The most you're
Right.
going to generate is going to be that what month is that? 6.26 in July. So you got 19.25 times 6.36. That month you will generate 122 kilowatt hours. You will just make it if you have enough battery storage to store it every time that it's available to store. And this is kind of the
That's a good
balancing
point.
act.
It's a
Yeah.
good point.
So the first thing you
Yeah.
got to figure out is how much do you need? This kind of goes back to what I said before. Not only do you need to generate what you're going to use during the day, but you need to generate an X percentage above and beyond that goes into your battery storage. So in this case, I would say he needs to generate the 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 120, which he's there if he's doing that, but he also needs to generate the 10% to go into his battery, and that would be an additional 5 or 6 kilowatts of power, which is where, the thing needs to be at least 25 to 30 kilowatts of solar panels would be my guess. And I think you're right about the batteries too. I think those need to be double.
I
And,
mean,
but I would start off by doing two things. One, making sure that what you said is right. Are the batteries, do you need to double the size? Is doubling it right? Because how much does it take to run from sundown to sun up? And then what is it going to take to charge them after that?
and he's got to charge his, and I'm assuming it's a he. He's got to charge his cars too. So I'm guessing you still need to go to work.
Well, I'm assuming his cars are in the 60 to 120 that's being used now,
Well,
not in
they
addition to
are,
it.
but what I mean is, let's just say that he needs
Oh,
to
he comes home
charge
from
his
work and then
vehicles
he's
after
pulling
he
it from the
gets home,
batteries.
and the sun's
Oh,
going down. Right, he doesn't have the batteries to do it.
oh,
So
you're right. Because
so
that means that
64
not,
is the minimum. It
well,
could be well over 100.
Well, it could be, but that goes back to what I said. If he knows what the charge is when there's no sun, what is the pull between the sun going down and the sun coming up, that will include his current car usage. So then he needs to make sure he has that amount of battery power to just handle overnight, first of all. And I'm going to guess, and I haven't done any math on this. Have you seen any statistics on what is the average overnight consumption? I bet it's big time different with RV owners than it is with normal people.
The other thing too is how many days that he wants to go without sun. So
Yep,
if you're in
autonomy.
a disaster scenario, depending on where you live, how many days do you want to be able to go? So power gets knocked out because of a tornado or hurricane or what have you. Okay, it might not come up for a week. We'll say that. Say it's a Katrina type event, it's multiple weeks or what have you. So now you're just relying on you. Now, after that, is it going to be sunny every single day, or what happens if you have 2 or 3 cloudy days in a row? Is that normal for your area? And if you have that, you're talking 300 kilowatts worth of batteries to get them through 3 days.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
and
that's,
that's a tough one.
yeah.
But these are the kind of problems that looking at this usage and understanding the systems is why a lot of people buy solar systems and then they're disappointed later because they don't
Right.
understand the autonomy. The longest outage I've seen is 4 days. I use a generator during that time. Okay, well this
Okay.
actually helps a
That
lot because
helps.
if you're willing and able to use a generator, then that means that your autonomy time you can limit it because you always have the ability to use a generator, especially if it's an automatic turn on or shut off generator where you're not going out there and manually running it. Then you can go to an overnight. And also it depends. This is the real question. Are you looking at a true emergency backup when you have complete and total disaster? Or are you looking at supplementing what you have in your house and still having the grid available for most of your time bad things and then having the generator if the grid just happens to be out? Or are you
Yeah.
looking to go off grid? Because as we've talked, those are three completely different scenarios here.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go back and make sure there wasn't any other. We skipped a whole bunch of comments here, so let me just make sure. I live at 26 degrees latitude. I build up excess credits in February, March, and May. End up in the year, or still have the hair and million excessive dust off industry pressure. Yeah,
Very nice.
that's pretty much how it works for me too. Is I build up all that extra in the March, April, May months, and then just ride the rest of the year out. Um, After that, I'm very careful to make sure that every single kilowatt that I generate after those months goes into my Bitminer. uh, Silverado 204 kilowatt battery and is my backup. Well, that's a good backup.
Yeah. Now, one thing to bring up, check Stashed, and I don't know the full channel, Stashed Fireman or what have you. He just had a couple of videos on the new Silverados with the 205 kilowatt hour pack that they had caught on fire and burned the trucks down. So
Yeah, you
watch
got to be
that video.
careful.
Right, and not trying to scare you or anything like that. It's I don't think it's NMC. It's but similar chemistry. There's
Yeah.
another letter in front of it, but
Just
essentially with that is a very high density battery, and it's a double layered battery. How that it's in there and it's sealed in a metal enclosure. So if that thing kicks off, you might not want to keep that inside your garage. Watch the video, and Silverado makes an amazing truck, and it has amazing tow capacity, and it's a beautiful vehicle. So please don't take it that I'm saying
it's
anything
but
negative,
it's
but
it's fair to say, look, most automobile batteries are not lithium iron phosphate. They do not
Right.
have the stability or the resistance to the cook-off or the runaway that a normal lithium iron phosphate battery has. It has all the storage, it has all the high capacity that's needed for a car, but there's a big difference between driving your car and being able to get out and parking it in your garage and it running your house overnight. So it's an awesome alternative during bad weather, but it needs something that you just need to be aware of.
But think
Good morning.
about parking it in your driveway if you don't now, and watch that video. When I saw that concerned me.
Yeah, there's a few of them that are like that. Well, if you remember the lithium batteries when they first came out, and laptops and cell phones and airplanes were catching on
Hmm.
fire, and
Oh yeah.
same problem. Didn't have any of the safety features, and they just don't. They have that ability to do it. And Donald, absolutely, 5 degrees. I saw that the other day, and so I left a bunch of my new panels sitting, just laying flat on pallets
Yep.
because nothing is easier than just laying them flat on pallets.
Agreed.
The rest are
Agreed.
all sitting at 28 degrees, but those are just laying on the pallets until later on in the year. Oh, let's see. What do we got else we got here that I missed? I've been at 97 degrees here for the past week or so. Yeah, well, I tell you what, 97 degrees would be a dream for me. Check this craziness out. Actually, that looks really good today. There we go. That's what I was expecting right there. 101. This is actually a really nice thermostat here too. I've been hitting 100, 105. I saw 109 or 110 the other day.
Well,
Crap. Fortunately, the batteries aren't making it up that warm. They're only making it into the low 90s, so I'm not really particularly fond of that, but it is what it is. All right. Anything else that I missed here? Oh, let's see. My panel's at 30 degrees. I did a lot of research before putting them together. Yeah, and there is an ideal for your latitude usually can match your panel degrees and you get your best year round. I'm at 28 degrees north, so 28 degrees the panels, and that's going to be your best year round. Ideally, though, mine change between 5 degrees and 55 degrees throughout the year. And that's just the way it is. Mine are nearly flat right now. Yep. I used about 8 kilowatts from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. This is running the AC at 73 degrees. Well, this is the same system, isn't it? This is the one we were just talking about. Yes. Okay, so he's got pretty low usage at night. This is mostly during the
mm,
day. So that's actually not too bad. I mean, the only fear that I would have then, because with 8 kilowatts, 20 kilowatt would make it through the night easy. That's an easy call. Then the question becomes is with your production levels the way they are, and let's go back to this chart over here. With the production levels here, if you are sitting in a month where you're generating, what did I have the setup on this set to? Let's go back real quick and make sure. 19.25, yep. And there we are, 20 degrees. All right. So this is right. And this is in your location. Why didn't it have location on that page? Must have had location on there. Yes, Ohio. Okay. So you're way up at 39 degrees north. That's going to be some steep panels. So that might actually change things. Let's see. I don't know where you got your panels marked, but 39 and 20 are huge differences. Wow, that helped. 24. And as you can see, this makes it so easy to just play with these numbers and kind of see what happens. Did that not change? Was it 24 to 34? Is that what happened? 39. It's at 24. Now it's at 24. It didn't change it at all. Why didn't it change it at all? Huh. I don't know. It's supposed to. Okay, either way. What were we saying? So here's your production, and your usage is 120 max, which is 120 divided by 30. I have no idea what that means. 120, 120 times 30. 3,600. So that's where the problem comes in. What is the minimum usage? 60? And it's the same. I know we're reworking the same problem, but with more information, it makes it kind of easy. So 1,800 is your minimum. You'll be okay at the 1,800 side of things. You're going to be short a couple months a year. But bad weather, I think, is where he's going to run into problems.
Right.
But the good news is it's not near as bad when it's only 8 kilowatts a night. That's actually really good.
I'll give an example where I'm at on the East Coast. For my area, 2 to 3 days is the most cloudy I'm supposed to see in a row. I hit 5 days in a row, and that zapped most of my systems because that was at the most that I can handle.
Yeah.
And had to switch back over to grid and shut all the miners off while I was going through those days, because 5 days of no sun was not in my scenario.
All right, let's see. Donald said he had to go. See us next time. See you, Donald. Originals Mike's Garage.
Other channel I logged in with when I joined the chat, when I would pick the wrong account.
Let's see. My off-road trailer gets about 2 days off-grid, no input power. If I'm just running my rig fridge, it keeps the food good. Could stretch it out for a bit, raising temps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty good though. 2 days for.
Yeah.
All right. We're going down here, and we have the new stuff. Mike, I don't think I've asked you the right question earlier. I joined the forum and ask again there. Thanks for all the help you guys provide.
Thank you. I'll take a look.
And if you guys are wondering what he's talking about, Mike's forum is he runs a solar forum, and there's the link to it there. I don't know, remember the URL. What's the URL, Mike?
It's windsolarforum.com.
A lot of good stuff out there. All right. You know, we never did make it to number 3 on the list, but number 3 is simple question, probably our last one for the night because we have been going on for a very long time. Thanks for hanging in there. I know it's been a long one, but it's been good conversation. I want to look through all of these. I want to find the only last one that we're going to answer. I think it's going to be this one right here. What does prepared actually mean to you? Does it mean you're going to charge your phone? Does it mean that you're going to have everything where you can run completely? I mean, if you knew that there was the end of the world was coming, the zombie apocalypse was about to hit, which, you know, someday it's going to happen. I'm convinced. I read all those, books like World War Z, and they show me it's going to happen, but that's a story for another day. If I told you, let's get prepared for the zombie apocalypse, what would that mean to you? How's that for a loaded question?
Wow. I think I would be fine from a solar perspective. Once I have the remaining panels, which are on property, with the mounts that are on property set up, I would be at that 95% off-grid situation. I wouldn't be able to hit 100, but I could modify my loads and do zone-based heating to get by. So I think I'd be fine.
That's fair. If prepping to me, at first I would have to consider what I'm going to do with the panels, because as you know me, I don't have a lot of mine mounted. My house panels I just leave where they are.
Right.
They're insured. Not sure what that means anything these days from these insurance companies, but they're insured. My backyard panels, I think my idea there is to restack them in the actual shed and then just put some straps around them and just tie them together as one big block of panels like they came originally shipped.
Mm.
Because I can't leave them out like that, and if there was a hurricane coming. So for me, that's what that would mean. Then I would have to deal with the consequences afterwards. Now, fortunately, my shed and my house are two different things. So I run off grid on my house, and my house would run until it hit. The one thing that I would probably need to do, the thing that really worries me is that when it hits, I've got half of my power sitting on top of my house in a grid tied system that I have no access to. So for me, being prepped at this point would be packing up those panels and then getting my AC coupling kit that I went to Home Depot and purchased the other day installed, because that will allow me to use those panels on the roof also. And I'm quite sure with 100+ kilowatt hours a day, I can run off grid every dang thing I want. But that would be, for me, I think that's where it would be. I can't really think of anything else. I would have said before I was worried I wouldn't have enough power, but I think now with the AC coupling and getting access to those 31 panels with the batteries that I've got, and maybe expand the batteries a little bit more. I'm not even close to my 2.5 to 3. Well, you know what? I might be. In a hurricane situation, I might be at the bare minimum scrapping by. I probably could get 3 or 4 days out of it. Full on usage, I probably could, especially if I limited things like the hot water heater or something. I could probably do full on usage, especially with all the solar panels off the roof. So maybe it'd be interesting to see. That might be something after I get the AC coupling running to see what happens. I've got my credit for the year with the electric company already, so maybe I'll run it just for a week and see what happens. How can I get by? The only problem is I've got the same issue you have. As my wife says, she doesn't mind me doing it, but she wants to be able to run everything. And if I go to the AC coupling, I'm not going to be running it on a system, the inverter that's big enough to run everything all at once. So it's going to be kind of, you can use the dryer, but you can't use the hot water heater. You can use the hot water heater, but you can't use the stove. You can use the stove, but you can't use the dryer. Kind of the big three shift-a-roni.
Yeah. Going back to your scenario on the hurricane, I think the biggest thing for me is, do I have enough weight and enough clamping force to keep my panels down? And I think I would have
science to get into.
There is. I've had some pretty good windstorms with 50, 60 mile an hour winds and no issues whatsoever, but I haven't had 115. And even though I did the test on my channel using my excavator to pull on the mounts and it broke the panel instead of lifting it, I think I still need to add more weight to the panels to hold them
And
down.
you have the mounts that sit on the ground and the stuff that sits on them, right? I
Right,
remember your excavator pull video way back when,
correct.
before I ever met you.
So I have, for each panel, I have 4 18-inch stakes holding the ground mount into the clay soil, and the stakes are coming down on different angles to keep it from lifting and pulling. And when I tested with the excavator, it broke the panel before it actually pulled it out of the ground. So it is solid, but I still think, because the ground's going to be heavily saturated with water, which means my clamping force is probably going to be reduced. I think I'd have to add more weight onto each of the mounts to give me that additional protection. So I don't know if I would do cinder blocks or sandbags, but I would have to do something.
I've considered taking the panels that I have that are against the fence, and so they're basically, this is the fence, and the panels are leaned against it, and I just put a runner board across the 2x4 across the top. So I've considered taking the bottom piece down here and just dropping a 4-foot 4x4 into the ground 3.5 feet, concreting it in, and then attaching another 4x4 across the top for them to sit on. And then it also makes it safe for the guy that mows the yard and weed eats and stuff to just go around and weed eat without any real trouble. And then I thought, I wonder if I could, instead of having those solar clamps that clamp down to rails, if I could just use some big anchor bolts and clamp it down to the actual 4x4s and then leave them up during that kind of a storm. I know it would handle a normal storm because they don't even move in the backyard with the fence in the house, and it's pretty well protected. I'm more worried about the high wind scenarios. And then the question becomes is how much force are you talking about? I mean, I got 16 of these lined up against right across the back fence, the ones that are on the back fence. 16 panels perfectly facing south, perfectly angled. But the question becomes, and they're butted up to each other, so I would have to give them a little bit of breathing room in order to strap them in. But I'm wondering how much upforce it would create. It probably not a lot, simply because there would be a fence on one backside of it. I don't know. I don't know how to do the math on that, because that would be a really good science for us to know.
It depends how well that your posts are in too, because let's be honest, they could rip the whole fence with the panels on them. So it's,
oh yeah.
I mean,
well, the fence posts themselves, I put them in, so they're 3 feet down and
concrete,
90 pounds of concrete in each one of them. So I'm pretty good there. And there would be, across those panels, it's about two per post. So there's probably 8 of those posts holding the backside of that. And I knew I was going to be leaning panels against it, so I was pretty good there. And then in addition to that, the neighbor wanted the chain link to stay, so I left it, even though it was on my side of the yard. So technically I have a chain link and a wood fence placed right in front of it, so it would actually use those posts as additional support if it was to ever get bad out there. So I probably would have some leeway there. My question is if it started to pull up on them, would the clips just pop off and panels start flying all over the place? It's one thing when they're bolted down on a house, the whole foundation is nice and stable. But when it's attached to a fence on one side and a firm mount on this side, if the fence sways, it could just click them all loose, would be my fear.
And that's I mean, you look at it we've seen roofs ripped off. You have your solar panel securely attached to the roof, and a hurricane comes by, rips the roof off. So I've
seen some reviews of different roof mounts, and to be honest with you, some of them I've seen drove by hurricane torn areas that I live in after a hurricane, and saw where the panels is the only section of the roof still there because it was attached to the rafters. And the panels were raftered in to the and protected the roof, and the roof around it was ripped off. So their whole roof is missing except the solar panel section.
It added stability. So it was a exoskeleton type.
Yeah. At least I'm assuming that's because it had the rails that went across but You know what? And I say that, but I know for a fact that's not true, because the one I'm thinking about, I remember thinking it had the same mounts that I had, which was the flat plates that are, probably a foot wide, a foot tall, and they slip up underneath, and then you
Right.
bolt them down, and then the shingle just flows back over top of them. And so they were individual mounts that attached to a panel on each side, top one high, one low. And so, but because they were screwed through the rafters, that was the key, is they went in through the rafters and attached to that big 2x8 or 2x6 that's in your roof.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's valid for
Not all
sure.
of them like that, obviously, but not all of the
Right.
roofs live at all. So,
This is true. This
well,
is true.
I think we could go on for another 6 hours, but I think we should call it quits. It has been 3 hours. I've kept you most of
Yep.
the night. It's been a good conversation. I do want to bring this message up before we go. I spent $300 on an energy monitor before I started dabbling in solar battery storage. Best money I spent, in my opinion. I've actually
Yep.
got two of them, and they are the absolute best thing you can do. Um, some of them, like the one I have, is what they call the refrost, and it is actually linked into my solar assistant, and I can monitor all the circuits in my circuit panel through this. And then, of course, there's the Cincy one, which is basically you don't have to hook up all your individual circuits in your house, but it senses based on electrical usage, the noise in each of the devices, and starts telling you which devices there are and whatnot. That also comes and feeds in through here also, but it's kind of a mess, so I don't use it. But they are, by far, you were absolutely right, the best money you could ever spend. I highly recommend, if you're looking at building a whole house solar system and you don't know what your usage is and the overall meter reading isn't enough, that type of system will save you a lot of time. Not to mention, the first month I installed it, the first thing I did is why is my well pump still running? I haven't had well water in 3 months. Come to find out, there was a small leak at the well, and it just would turn on every now and then and recharge the tank. So I had all this well usage that I didn't actually have any well water. So saved me a fortune there all by itself. So, all right. Anything else? My roof deck is 1 inch by 12-inch plank board, staggered using high temperature secondary membrane with a 5V clamp metal roof. According to the inspector, it'll take a mild EF1 tornado to take it out. Yeah.
Yep.
Direct hit by a Cat 5 hurricane or an EF1. Yeah, good luck with that hurricane. Yeah, as soon as we say that, though, it'll come by and just pick the whole damn house up. That's what'll happen. All right. I think that's it for me, Mike. It has been wonderful as usual. And I am going to, I got a text message in the middle, if you guys remember my phone going off, and that was Average Joe saying, sorry, dude, I'm not home yet. And Joe, we're disappointed in you. We really are. We hope your wife yells at you for it. So, um, if you guys are a subscriber to Average Joe, make sure you go to his channel and on his video, give him a good review and mention that you missed him not being here and that you wish he had been here. Joe, I told you in the message I was going to give you some crap. Good night, everybody. Mike, thank you. And I do want I did want to point out one more time, we did make it to 25,000 subscribers. I know most of y'all missed it earlier tonight. I started the program off. Thank you so much for all the subscribers. I really do appreciate it. And keep in mind that if you have a member program on any of the channels that you love, there's like this one here. You can pick one that you get a free membership for 30 days. So I encourage you to go out and sign up for a free membership on your favorite channel. You only get to do it once, so make it count. And on my channel, what you basically get is early access to all the videos that I publish. Usually I publish them days, sometimes weeks ahead of schedule, so that you get to see them before they actually come out. It helps support the channel, pay for some little things, help me afford my crazy habit. So Thanks a lot. It's only a couple bucks a month. It's nice and cheap. You might want to save that kind of subscription for somebody who has a really a pricey one. Anyway, good night all. Thank you. Mike, anything last parting?
I would say thanks for having me on the channel again. If anyone wants to check out the forum, it's windsolarforum.com, and then my channel is Mike Solar Garage.
Both of those should be in the comments. If they're not, I'll get them added. If you need any parts, supplies, tools, batteries, that kind of stuff, all of my links are in this link here, which is mattmansolar.com/start. I always keep it up to date, or I try to always keep it up to date. So hopefully you guys will, if you ever need anything or were looking for that battery that I was reviewing or that rack that I was building or whatever it happens to be, that is where you will always find it. The description in the videos may age, but that page will always stay up to date. So bookmark it, tell a friend, like and subscribe, and go over to Mike's channel and like and subscribe him too. He's got a great channel, a great system, and gives a lot of good content. A lot of the times I see his channels and it makes me jealous of his 12,000 XPs. I may have to get one just so I can put them in the background other than my fake screen back here. But it does look pretty good though, doesn't it?
I do like the screen.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
very
totally
nice.
fake. It's a nice thing because I can't go out to the shed at this time of the year. It's too hot out there.
I wish I can get my wiring that clean. That is some
Yeah.
very clean wiring.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I spent hours
It's
working on this
beautiful.
wiring.
I don't even think Will Prowse can wire it that cleanly. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, the only thing is I didn't pay close enough attention to it when I was getting it built. I had some AI assistant, and there's some things in here that are just kind of a little iffy. Like all the Victron stuff, if I had noticed that all the Victron, other than the wording up in that top left-hand device over there, the rest of it is all crap. None of it actually exists the way it's designed or shown. So it's kind of a little, yeah, but it looks
It
good,
looks
and
nice.
that was the whole purpose. I didn't have some blank white wall behind me. And I can hold things up without the blue screen or the green screen causing me trouble. And I get to wear my crazy shirts that my wife buys for me. She buys them for me, but there for a long time I was doing green screen and I couldn't wear half of them. So now I get to wear them all. Anyway, thanks everybody. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, and we will see you both here on YouTube and on Facebook going forward. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Mike, I think that this will put us back together once it plays the goodbye tone, but I'm not 100% sure.